I'm the seed of a soul to the executive ruler, and I'm absolute to my people the way I maneuver. So through my fold for the circle 7 and scimitar, caught the jet in your bloodline, indigenous Lord. I'm the seed of a soul to the executive ruler, and I'm absolute to my people the way I maneuver. So through my fold for the circle 7 and scimitar, caught the jet in your bloodline, indigenous Lord. Supreme law, you know I'm reppin', man. And you'd rather see me white clad and dressed in all black, or 70,000 swift angels ride camelback, full of materialized and forcing 7 acts. And I'm magistrate mandated to be AGS, and I feel the trillers in the flesh, and nevertheless, and I know the best is yet to come through my DNA. God body pedigree, I'm just paving the way. It's all smoke with dirty moles in the afterlife. It's hellfire torment, so devils walk light. And when you move to and fro within my omnipresence, I'm landlord ever present. So count your blessings, my ways and means and my methods, my sacred weapons, my muff tees on deck, and they all stepping through all these hells and days, deific willing ways. We can raise a nation of 60 million from shallow graves.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Peace and love, family. You already know what time it is. You know, we here to bring this message on the manifest. Salute, Brother Jay. Yes, sir. Let me go ahead and get this link in here. You know, so you can get on the panel if you want to come in here. Honest to the family that's watching. We are here tonight to conclude, you know, this measure dealing with the 5 folds of man. I've actually shared the link to many of our Moorish kin out there already, so that our family can hopefully tune in. You know, so we got a grand measure being brought on the manifest. As we can see, the 5th fold is misery. Misery. You know, you often hear people use the terminology in relation to stating that misery loves company. You know, and where we're going to find out, you know, why this is so, why it is that misery loves company. You know, so this is a powerful drawing we're getting ready to bring on the manifest. You know, and actually what I want to do before I open up, salute Brother Ray Sean. Peace and love, family. Yes, sir. You know, what I want to do, I'm going to actually do something a little different tonight. And I'm going to come forth with a grand drawing for our Moorish kin. And just give me 1 second here. I think I already have it open. Oh, yeah, I got it open over here. So what I want to do, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to come forth with the Adept questionnaire tonight, family, so that y'all can see. And this Adept questionnaire pretty much covers, you know, the folds, and it lets you know exactly how we are made. You know, there's a question and an answer that's often given in the 101s. The question is asked, who made you? You know, and the answer is Allah. You see, Father of the universe. And when it speaks of who made you, in most cases, some of our people think that who made you has to do with the physical makeup, but your parents made the physical, you know, but God made the spiritual, and he allowed, you know, your parents to be able to procreate. Salute, Brother Jay. Yes, sir. Peace and love, family. Make sure if you're watching this, you like and subscribe. And if you would like to come in as well, family, those of you who are watching, you're more than welcome to join this measure, because I try to open these things up as open panel discussions. So what I want to do without further delay, just honor our brother real quick before we open up. You know, our brother Jay, most definitely one that is bearing the name of faithful, being forever grateful. And this is one who has come forth with his eyes wide open. Him and our brother Soul. Soul might be up in here later. Islam, what's going on, Brother Jay?
Islam, brother. You know, we here for the 505, man. Gotta knock them all down, get that information.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Yes, sir. Gratitude. The grand thing about putting this information out here is that our family can always go back and eat off this plate. You know what I mean? And they can always come back and get greater revelations than they got before. So praise be to Allah, Islamism without the schism. And so without further delay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up now and go into our adept questionnaire. Let me share my screen so you can follow me. I'll share the entire screen to make sure that we're sharing everything that needs to be seen. And let me get a confirmation. You see that, Brother Jay?
Yep, I can see it.
Yes, sir. The room of resolution. And for those who don't know, the room of resolution has to do with that which is above the neck. In fact, if you were to take that word room and read it backwards, what do you get from that, Brother Jay?
MOOR. More.
Yes, sir. So the room of resolution is really within the more, who is resolute. Islam.
Islam.
Yes, sir. Our gifts most definitely make room for us. And there's always room for growth. And that is in the room of resolution. So, what we have on the manifest here, family, if we go into the essence of this drawing, I want to come forth with this measure. Another fine drawing our chairman brought forth in these adept questionnaires, Moorish science adept questionnaire. And let's go into the aspect of what Moorish science is briefly too. Moorish science is a living manifestation. Our science is a living manifestation. That's what we teach in the same questionnaire. This is what we state. Moorish, and the word ish is actually, the word that actually deals with the God man. The name that can only be used by the executive rulers of the MST of A, the executive rulers. Those who have become executive rulers of the self, because the Moorish has to do with our descent nature. The science, again, is a living manifestation. The temple is the temple of perfected man in which we are building right now. And we utilize our tools in the workshop of the mind where thought is used to build character. So this is the real Moorish science temple, man himself. You see, this is where one can actually go and get holy instructions, a true instruction, within, if we are able to meet the prophet and allow him to teach us from the plane of soul. If we are able to climb that ladder that they like to refer to in the Piscean records of the Bible, they call it Jacob's ladder, an ability to ascend into the spiritual heights. You see, its demonstration is also known as, the seven heavens. If you go into the teachings of Al-Islam, when Muhammad went on his night journey. So whether you look at it from either text, anytime you're talking about ascension takes place by degrees, ladder, and this is how we climb up into the heights of consciousness, Islam. So what we want to do is come forth with this measure. It states the room of resolution. Here in the room of resolution, where thought must be developed by exercise of strength, right? We are here to become the strength of Allah made manifest. Allah manifests us by means of thought. So therefore, if we are able to think, we become strong in divinity, Islam. So it states the intern scrubs, it say that they may be just in the operation, that they may become the strength of Allah made manifest, or any of 1,000 ways, right? Man may be destroyed. He must crush one under his feet and tame the other self to his purpose. That's a grand drawing. It states that to know oneself is to be the other. In other words, to be the higher self instead of the lower self. That's the other self, which is really illusion, Maya. It states here in the room of resolution, one is always aware of irresolution in the intent of a person's actions. Here we find remembrance being called to aid as the students are asked questions to contemplate the frame and give praises to how fearfully and wonderfully man is made. They know the patient must be made to face and fight his greatest foe, his own carnal nature, be it vanity, despair, passion, selfishness, hatred, infirmity, greed, ignorance, slander. And on that note, as we always do, we rise giving praises to the great God Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. Give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal of Moorish America. We give honors to our Grand National Emblem of Moorish America. We give honors to our national flag of Moorish America, our divine constitution and bylaws of Moorish America, and honors to everything it is that allows us to be a living manifestation and a personification of everything it is that our holy prophet brought us to make us a nation. Islam. I want to give honors to everybody that have, a heart to sympathize, and a mind to empathize and hear this special truth. So without further ado delay, we want to keep a pace and keep it moving. And now we will deal with these questions. And in fact, since our brother Jay is here, when I ask the question, brother, you can answer the question. Islam?
Islam.
Yes, sir. Islam. Okay, so we will proceed. Question: how humble should man be?
As he art weak and ignorant.
Question: when did man become various and waver?
From the womb of thy mother.
Question: where did he inherit his instability?
From the loins of thy father.
Question: where can inconstancy be found most powerful?
In the heart of man.
Question: what urges man to inconstancy?
Nature.
Question: what is the prerogative of thy nature?
Misery.
It ain't strange, that's the fifth fold. Question: what is natural to thee?
That would be grief.
Question: what is inconstancy connected with?
Frailty, fragility.
Islam. Question: what is inconstancy?
The calamities of the human state.
Name them.
Intemperance, despair, and fear, but vanity is beyond them all.
Question: what does vanity do?
Blindeth the eye and hideth the heart of a man from himself.
Question: is the heart of the vain content?
No, it only seemeth content. His cares are greater than his pleasures.
Question: why?
Because he extendeth his thoughts beyond his being.
Question: do others like to hear the vain speak of himself?
No, but he seeth this not.
Question: what is vanity connected with?
Infirmity.
Question: who furnished the body with weakness?
Those who gave thee a body.
Question: who are those you speak of?
That'll be Elohim.
Islam.
Islam.
Question: where does weakness appear the most?
In the possessing and in the using the things thy first desired.
Question: where is weakness?
Blended in thy nature.
Question: what is the source of doubts?
Doubts are of thine own raising.
Question: what is misery?
It is the character of thy being.
Question: where does it reside?
In thy breast alone.
Question. What is the source of misery?
Thine own passions.
Question. What is the greatest of all human ills?
That sorry sorrow.
Islam. Question. What is thy present station?
Thy present concerns.
Question. When do good things cease to be good?
In our enjoyment of them.
Question. From whence does pain arise?
From our delights.
Question. From whence does sorrow arise?
From our joys.
Question. Name two great failings of thy nature.
Irresolution in the intent of thy actions and instability in their execution.
Question. Are wise men perfect?
No, the wise man feeleth his imperfections and is humble.
Question. Is evil requisite to man?
No.
Question. What is the study of a wise man's life?
The science of happiness.
Question. What is wisdom?
Wisdom is the consciousness that man is aught, that Allah and man are one.
Question. In the light of all, what happens to consciousness that heaven and earth and hell are not above, around, below, but in?
It becomes naught, and Allah is all.
Question. What is this called?
This too is wisdom.
Question. How would man know to be happy?
When he knows to be content.
Islam.
Islam.
You see, it states there are many more questions answered here in the room of resolution. All are answered through reasoning. Here the young Moorish interns learn that in the light of understanding, things that seem complex become most simple. As the master surgeon illustrates his written words, who made you? Allah. Who made the devil? Elohim. And as you can see, the symbolism here shows the perfection of the seven with the rays coming forth from that. And if we really look into this science, you can actually see, 90 degrees coming by the way of three, moving throughout four quadrants, where you can see the gateway. And you can see how man himself is the truth standing in the center. And we can also see man as a manifestation in his upright self, being love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And we can also see that which is in opposition to those principles: Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. And this is a shadow, of the lower self. This is below the horizon, so to speak. So when one rises out of that state of darkness into the marvelous light, one becomes a son of truth, casting rays of divinity in all directions, that one may be nurtured by those rays of consciousness. You see, all by the presence of the great God Allah, through all of those who would become a willing vessel, those whom have linked their will up with the deific will, and those whom are doing the great work of uplifting fallen humanity. This is how the great God Allah allows man to know that he is present. He allows his love to be embodied by one that has become immersed in that love. He allows his truth, peace, freedom, and justice to be embodied by those who are immersed in those special principles. And this is how we get a response. And the problem is we had yet to be able to bear witness to this, because we have been looking for a God that was a spook outside of the self, as opposed to seeing the great God Allah working through everything in creation. As it is above, so it is below. As it is within, so it is he is working without, so to speak. You see? And it goes on to state, the five-pointed star in a single expression symbolizes the upright man firmly planted upon free national standards and principles. The human in a fallen state, adversity, is represented by the same star but in reverse, rather than upright and independent as love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The pentagram becomes Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast, independent upon aught, yet is naught. Man's thinking in reverse is a shadow, an illusion, and nothing more, and must pass away. The reverse of man is not a true part of him, only an accepted part, and you are what you accept in your character. This shadow and the followers that accept their teachings is powerless without thee, and only marks the wrongs that man had to tread, that he may learn to wrong no more. The shadow of the lower self is but evil thinking that deems itself a living monster of the nether world. To dwell here is to waste the finite duration, which men call time. But before the patient is accepted, let us sojourn into the workshop of the mind. This is where the thought pattern must be transplanted from a finite point of view to infinite wisdom. So I want to stop right here briefly. As we can see, this workshop of the mind is actually the laboratory or the operating room. And this is where we receive our degrees of being doctors of the divinity. That's where our doctor degree come from. You know, every tool that we use in the workshop of the mind, what thought is used to build character, actually becomes surgical tools. So those tools must be completely sterile, you know, before we begin the process of operating within the workshop of the mind. So, my brother, just going through the questionnaire as we just went through it, what are some of the things that were highlighted to you, my brother, as we went through that especially measure in relation to the five foes and uh, everything else that we have been demonstrating? Islam, you have the floor. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. Some things that stood out to me is, to me, I was tapped into like polarity. So I need to go back and see it. Rewind real quick to the discourse, and I'll try to point out the polarities that I was tapped into. If we can do that real quick.
Yeah, which is the particular part
So the previous discourse that we were having.
when we were dealing with the questionnaire,
Yep.
right? Okay.
All right. So, for example, natural grief. So inconstancy, right? What
Yes,
is an
sir.
inconstancy connected with? And then we learn that it's frailty, and I also said fragility. But we know the resolution for that is to be resolute. So
That's right.
when we're going through all of this, I'm seeing the polarities of the same foes of man are juxtaposed with the resolutions. So if we could scroll down real quick.
Yes, sir. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, about right there. Okay, so even if we go to the stars, because I can't pick something from right here in particular, but if we go to love, justice, truth, freedom, and peace, the polarity of that is the five foes, or dragon, devil, beast, Satan, and Lucifer, that higher self and lower self. So I'm just seeing this duality, this polarity that we're working with. There's always that flip side to it, that elevated nature. The very things that are foes have like another degree, a higher degree to them, or something that's on the other end of the polarity, that is the solution to them, or directly counter that foe. So I was just tapped into that, like the two sides of all these things, like that lower self, higher self measure that's going on in all of this.
That's right. You know, in every degree of evil, there's an admixture of good in it. You know, in other words, something to learn from, a wisdom. So yeah, we see exactly where you're coming from. But see, that deals with the duality of
Mm-hmm.
being in the manifest. And there was a time we didn't have to learn how to love because we were love made manifest. There was a time we didn't have to be taught truth,
Right.
peace, freedom, and justice because we were just that. We existed as that. You see?
Right.
I remember our brothers in the nations of gods and earths used to say in the 5% lessons, they would say, be is to exist and born is to bring into existence. You see what I'm saying? So being love is to exist in love. But to give birth to love, that is to bring love on the manifest. But there has to be a polarity, you see, when this takes place. Because once you bring love on the manifest, in order for one to truly understand the full potential or the potencies of love, one has to have been exposed to the opposite pole of that, which is hatred. You see? And the same can be said about the other principles. Islam?
Islam.
Yes, sir. So anything else you would like to point out, my brother?
Nah, just going through that, I was also learning. Like I wasn't fully conscious, like up to speed with it, but there was some I was catching on to that I remembered from the previous lessons. So like just even going through that discourse, I feel like I learned a few of them, like I caught a few of them.
Yes, sir. Very powerful. And that's the key. We were often told to conform or rather confirm ourselves to the questionnaires. This is what Prophet Noble Drew Ali told us, because when you put the knowledge, into the reservoir, then you actually have, strength to draw from. But, if man don't know, he can't do any better than what it is that he know. But when we know better, we do better. You see?
Okay,
So
I have a
go ahead. Go
quick
ahead.
question, brother.
Yes, sir.
Because I see there's a common theme that keeps on rising, and I want to understand it fully. I took note. It says, "Man's thinking in reverse is not a true part of him, only a accepted part." Could you expound on that a little bit?
Well, basically, when it come down to dealing with man and his thinking, right? If he extend himself beyond his being, you know, in other words, it's not natural to him. To truly think is to be the love thought made manifest. You see, without even having to do it. But when we allow ourselves to get caught up into our own train of thought, so to speak, sometimes we end up crashing as a result. It's almost like you trying to carjack the Most High from your V. Get up out of there, I say, and let me do. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Next thing you do, you end up crashing out. Islam?
Islam.
Yes, sir. All right. Any other measure before we move forward?
I'm ready to move. Let's move.
All right, soldier. Let's move out and go to war with this fifth foe. Praise be to Allah. And it was definitely necessary to bring this questionnaire forth. And let me go to our chat first, and give honors to our family. Decade Bay, we give honors to all the family here. We want to show that our family is present. Ray Sean Irvin, we give honors to you. We see our brother Right on Point was present in here. Look like this may be our brother Lex Vortex, if that's who I'm thinking it is here. Honors to that brother as well, if it is. Brother Blackman, the Most High here, so to speak. Want to give honors to that family there as well, family member rather. And yourself, brother, we give honors to you again, brother Jay. Yes, sir. All right. Yep, straight ahead, Decade Bay. We give honors to your brother Ascari. Salute to you as well. And yes, sir, that's the link. So we want to give honors to all of our family that has shown up, and hopefully a couple of more of our people come in here, and they can get involved with this last foe, because we can take on this special one together. This is a powerful measure, the fifth foe, misery. So let me go back to our drawing. And as you can see again, you see, the abyss, the flame surrounding the head of this beast. Because actually, we talk about falling in degrees, the chief uh, leader, so to speak, is basically that special one that manifests by the degree of his title. So we seen Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast coming through the first of the four folds. But now we have this fifth fold, which is the beast. Remember, the dragon is the one that drug you down into the pit. You see? So the beast is waiting there to devour one, to eat one up, chew one up, and spit one out, so to speak. Islam. So this fifth fold, see, this is what we talk about, the five that fell. We as a people, we end up falling if we are not careful. We fall in the head. That's what man fell at. He fell in his thinking. That's why Noble Drew Ali said, if I can just get you to thinking more, you will save yourself. You see? So this is a powerful demonstration here. When we understand, who we are. We understand our position, so to speak. So, fold number 5. Swift Angel number 1's lesson 254. All right now. And this is chapter 44. Holy instruction from the prophet, misery. As you can see here, our chairman put pretty much a modern day concentration camp, or what they call a prison. Then you see also the likeness of how our people were packed like sardines in the bottom of a ship, slave ships, sometimes called after names such as Jesus or Jesus and so forth and so on, right? But nevertheless, this is depicting one that is in Hotel Les Miserables, as one who has become imprisoned to their own mind, imprisoned within their own mind. You see? So, man, in order to be killed, you have to be made killable. Character assassination is key. And the behavior that our people have been carrying on under, this has given, the opposition or the open adversary an excuse or pretext to wage war upon us with the setting maul, knocking our brains out. You see? Our ability to think. So that's a whole nother measure. See, that's the difference between the tools, of Western secret societies and the tools of the Moors. Our tools become instruments, of self-mastery. They are not weapons of war. We never use our compass and our square to kill. As the master builder, the African god man, codenamed Hiram Abiff, was killed, by the ruffians, that took him off the count. We don't demonstrate like that. You want to say something about that, Brother Jay, before we go into this preamble?
I was just meditating on man fell in his own thinking. I'm meditating on that right now.
That's right. Yes, sir. We call it the pitfalls of human knowledge, the insufficiency of knowledge. Yes, sir. He fell. He forgot who made him. So he thought he was just a ball of flesh. So if somebody say, yeah, you a ball of flesh and you my property, if he didn't know no better, then he accepted that as being the truth. And everything that one cared to bestow upon him. All the misuses and abuses that any and every nation cared to bestow upon him, to be exact. So as we go on in the preamble, it states the above persons in prison illustrates a congressionally authorized statistic which displays the disproportionately imprisoned sun-kissed people. It says, as those exceptions duly convicted of crimes and subjected to the jurisdiction. Officially, these inmates are now slaves with numbers, better known as chattel property, now owned judiciously by corporate United States. In reality, the prison industries of the USA is the highlight of the infamous shallow grave that holds the personage of the West African gods labeled Hiram Abiff. The prison systems are showcased as the USA's maximum security facilities to divert the light away from the Negroes, blacks, and colored people. NBC still housed in the minimum security states, cities, and societies. So for those who think that they are not incarcerated or in prison, the world is just minimum security. So it states those already on lockdown are displayed and confined by the USA laws to maximum prisons of misery. Meanwhile, those left in the minimum security of society are only existing in denationalized misery and various anticipations of death. What you think about that, Brother Jay?
No, it's right on. Even us who think we are outside of the gates, we think we free, but we really not as free as we think we are.
That's right. Free the mind and the behind will follow. Yes, sir. As a man thinketh in his heart, we keep telling him, so is he. It goes on, and it states in Act 6 of the Divine Constitution of Moorish America, the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali warns his people of the magnanimous clandestine enslaving powers of Western Freemasonry. From the Grand Lodges of Scottish and York Rite orders, it is in the nature of Western Freemasonry to orchestrate high crimes against the hoi polloi, yet swear to hold these wrongs in secret via death oaths, strictly among brothers of the order. Drew Ali also revealed the United States did lawfully purchase and enslave the stolen nationals of northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa from 1779 until 1865 during the time of constitutional slavery in the Americas. Throughout this jurisdictional period of slavery, the Moorish people were denationalized and officially given the slave names of Negro, Black, and Colored people, NBC. Here, it must be remembered the true veracity is in nascence of Western African slave trade began in 1492 and then lawfully recognized again from 1779 until 1865. But in the newly declared United States, the institution of slavery was surreptitiously, extended from 1868 until around the year of 2000. During the entirety of this 520 plus year period, the corporate United States has never been without her commercialized staple of NBC slaves. Now, notice the statistics and the stats that were demonstrated here. You see, and it goes into America's prisoners per population by race in 2006, adult male inmate prisons and jails, 5% of black males, 2% of Hispanic males, 1% of white males. And this is just dealing with their special statistics. And look who is high on the list, and look who is low, and look who is even lower. So that should tell one something there. That's just dealing with the physical prison. But imagine this same number being used for those who are in prison within their mind. It reminds me of the time when I used to study with the 5%, and they used to speak about the 5%, the 10%, and the 85%. And they would talk about the 5% being the poor righteous teachers. And they would talk about the 10% being poison animal eaters. The elite bloodsuckers of the poor, easy, to basically be those who are guiding the people astray, whom are the 85 that are easy to be led in the wrong direction and hard to be led in the right direction. You know, that's a powerful analogy. How many of our people are still asleep within the arms of death or in prison within their own minds? Just let that marinate a bit. You know, just something to think about. So it goes on, it says, still, the old Masonic setmall was used to traumatize and make comatose the nationless Moorish males, females, and their kids. And we know a kiss is a goat. Kid is a goat, pardon self. It's saying to the false belief that they were free, ancient, and accepted. But there is no freedom in slavery. The NBC is no older than the USA that made them, and neither is there a nation on earth that accepts or recognizes the Afro-Americans. Through the enslaving laws of the constitutional amendments, the NBC are trained to accept their imprisonment as the notorious shallow grave where misery is an assumable, expected, and natural way of life. Noble Drew Ali would later surmise this extreme psychic exhaustion as mental slavery. Today, the former slave plantations of the USA have been systematically reconstructed into the world's largest slave plantation for non-citizens, being duly convicted of said crime, while being denationalized and unproclaimed and unrecognized. Hence, nationless slaves remain subject to the jurisdiction of the Western Freemasonic controlled courts and lifetime guests of the United States hotels of miserable rejects, better known as prison systems in the USA. Louisiana, Florida, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Oklahoma have the highest number of inmates, 100,000 per 100,000 residents. These stats further show that 8% of NBC males who live in the United States are in prison or jail, 2% of Hispanic, less than 1% of European males. What's not so well known, the Hotel Les Miserables is a multi-billion industry and has been financially gainful on the New York Stock Exchange for many decades. In the Nielsen rating estimates that there are over 60 million NBC consumers under the legal jurisdiction of the USA, with buying power currently 1.1 trillion, but has absolutely nothing to show because of their nationless status as a people. Being unproclaimed, unrecognized, and unable to sustain an economic base among themselves makes this 15% of the national U.S. census prime interest for the secured profits of Hotel Les Miserables. More students, please be warned, advised, and taught based upon the exception clause ratified in the 1865 13th Amendment. The United States has the most populated prison system of any country in the world. It is not accident that all of its prisons today, be they federal, state, private, or local, are U.S. 13th Amendment NBC Hotel Les Miserables. Throughout it, colonial, sovereign, and corporate history of the United States, there has never been a more profitable business than the ownership of 60 million African descendants. In the 1700s through the 1800s, the NBC was lawfully broken, bound, and marked with every degree of physical restraints imaginable. Today, now that their will is gone and they have accepted mental slavery as a way of life, they need only to be bound by their birth certificates, social security cards, licenses, arrest records, and dates of death. Through the history of the human family of nations, slaves have always resulted from those peoples other men have conquered, made powerless, rendered nationless, and no longer recognized as a people, but are now involuntary servants. The first pictures of incarceration on page 1 represent the many super maximum prisons of misery. Under the guise of penitentiaries as a lawful institution of slavery in the USA, it says, yet why the NBC, the most unmistakable of all declared possessions owned in the USA, to be it a car, horse, dog, building, or land, still the only real property arrested, tried in the court of law, and sentenced to time in prison or death. From wisdom we learn, because man's lessons are not all learned, is real reason men carry their persons or prisons within their heads. And I persons is right, because persons represent property, state property too. Misery is a self-made foe, often a cure from bad choices, disappointments, and mangled thoughts built from carnal desires and false sensations. Yet misery remains sheltered within the Lord thinking of the mind, where the actions of the soul lies in slumber. Without a knowledge of the self, the heart and mind are doomed to the suffrages of misery. It is this hotel les miserables of thoughts which is the foundation supporting the United States as the world's largest prison system. The thoughts of this hotel are managed by 5 foes that depend upon the weakness of the human ills and carnal desires. These foes are the employer to pay the bearer with wages steeped in unhappiness, sadness, depression, wretchedness, grief, regret, gloom, fear, misfortune, agony, suffering, mourning, trouble, deprivation, poverty, distress, discomfort, destitution, despair, wavering, corrupt thoughts. Misery is a component of mental illness, an enslaved mental status, being unhappy, depressed, or destitute, miserable. Thinking is a psychological state of internal suffrage, resulting from a strong disorder of desiring, yet not being content with things beyond the self. All this adds down to misery. The key to understanding this sickness is to conquer misery by knowing it is always a self-inflicted foe. Miseries are requested and accepted corrosions and decharacterizations of the God status by fears and human nature. Then it goes into showing the picture of man, it speaks on this in the 102s about this 4-legged, beast called a Negro. That's why he put that art word up there. But it says, who made the Negroes, colored people, black people, and why? And it says Negroes, black, colored people, African Americans are man-made slaves. They made in America too. It says they are results of mentally conquered and denationalized people whom have been completely detached from the human family of nations. Slaves made in the United States are miserably powerless, nationless, and will never be recognized as a free nation of people. I want to stop right there and see what your drawing is on that, Brother Jay. Anything you would like to bring forth?
That was a lot, bro. Honestly, that was a lot.
Yes, sir. And we just added our family, Brother Ray Sean Irvin, to the screen. Welcome to the panel, family. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What about our brother Ray Sean? What have you to say, brother, in regards to dealing with this 5th foe that we call misery?
Bro, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, my brother.
Hold on.
Islam.
I have my ear on. So, bro, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, my brother.
Hello?
Yes, sir. We can hear you. Can you hear us? Yes, sir.
Man,
can
my
you hear?
data messing up. Hold on.
Okay. Yeah, because we can hear you. We can hear you over here.
Yeah, man. Every time I try to come in, my
Oh,
data starts
that's
messing
real
up. Can you
clear
hear me?
right there. Oh, that's real clear. That's
Damn, you
clear than
breaking up
you.
real bad, bro.
Yeah, well, we don't hear you breaking up over here, bro. We hear you clearly. I don't hear you chopping over here. I hear you clearly. You can hear him too clearly, right, brother Jay?
Yeah, I can hear him loud and clear.
Yes, sir. Well, all right. Well, while the brother get his sound back right, you can come forth and draw with us real quick, brother.
All right. I'm just taking a last note. But one of the things you said kind of made me upset.
Oh yeah.
It was the part when you said there has never been a more profitable business than the ownership of 60 million African descendants. I'm like, damn,
Yeah, that
that
true
made me
dirt.
mad. That made me upset. I took
Yeah,
that personal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It make you it'll stir up the ethers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, brother.
yeah, I mean that's a tough one to take in, but also I just took a note that said you conquer misery by knowing it is always a self-inflicted foe. Like I think sometimes when we get down on ourselves, we believe that the world is being hard on us, but really we gotta change our perspective and realize it's really our thinking or the way that we're viewing things that's causing us to feel how we're feeling. Not to say that some things aren't justifiably unfavorable, but just the perspective of it. Sometimes we inflict ourselves with these thought patterns that get us down. That'll turn you into that four-legged beast that was just, you know, laying over, unable to move. So I really like that one. It's self-inflicted.
Yes, sir. And that's the mess when you get to the level of beast, and you see the beast was nursing, little pups, so to speak. You see, and it ain't strange that if you take the word dog and you reverse that as special demonstration, you get the word God. In the lower
Right.
state, one manifests in the same way as that of a dog, being let off the chain, being released, but not knowing one is actually free. You see, that's a
Okay.
powerful measure in and of itself. And so we have to come out of that dog like consciousness, that savage life, and come into the God state. Islam?
Islam.
Yes, sir. Gratitude. So I'm gonna proceed on into the chapter. Holy instruction from the prophet, misery. Now, in Ayat 1, it states, feeble and insufficient as thou art, O man, O Moorish American national, O master of Allah's nature, MAN, O man, feeble and insufficient as thou art, in good, frail, and inconstant as thou art in pleasure, yet there's a thing in which thou art strong and unshaken. Its name is misery. Misery equals being feeble, weak, frail, poor, ineffective, pathetic. Misery is insufficient, inadequate, absence, deficiency, lacking storage, scarcity, unsatisfactory. We went through this last night. Good, which means upright virtue, nobility, superiority, accomplished, and beneficial. That's a powerful measure in and of its own. Ayat 2, it states, it is the character of thy being, the prerogative of thy nature. In thy breast alone it resided without thee. There is nothing of it. And behold, what is its source but thine own passions? You are the creator of these conditions, basically. We just must learn to become executive rulers or be able to govern our conditions. Islam. So,
Islam.
yes, sir. Islam. You got a measure you want to add on to that?
Okay, so just to clarify, it's saying the source of misery is thine own passions.
That's right.
What would be one example of a passion that brings upon misery?
Well, when we long for a thing, and then we strive for that thing, and if we don't get it, we
Okay.
ain't able to have our way, we fall into a state of misery,
Yeah.
being miserable. You see? And now, hold up, let me pull this right here down real quick. Uh-oh. Gotta pick all that up there. But
So therefore, I think I recall this from the discourse. Therefore, we need to be content.
there you go.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We need to learn to be content, and learn that, and that's true happiness. To be content is to be happy. Our misery comes from constantly striving for those things that we seek to obtain, and when we don't obtain them, then we end up being upset.
Right.
We fall into our passions and so forth and so on. You see?
Right.
I want to go into this Arabic dictionary of the Quran, the Grand Quran,
Mm-hmm.
to give you a grand drawing right here. Just give me 1 second. This is a powerful measure right here. This explains something. Just notice you see misery oblis. That word oblis takes me back to the word iblis,
Right.
who was amongst the angels. Just as even in the Piscean records it said Lucifer was amongst the angels. But there's something that caused that one to go astray and try to take ones with him too. In the definition of this particular text, it says balasa. That's the root of the word iblis, or ablasa. And it states balasa, which is a person of desperate character. It says there is no verbal root of this word in the first form. Ablasa, it means to be overcome with grief, be desperate, struck dumb with despair, remain disheartened and gloomy, stupefied, remain speechless. This is the root of the name Iblis, Ablasa. You see how it's corresponding with these fivefold so far?
Copy.
Yes, sir. And it goes on, it says Iblis. It is derived from Ablasa, which means who despaired. Good virtue, or rather good in virtue, became less or decreased, who became broken in spirit, mournful, who was perplexed, was unable to see his way, who became silent on account of grief or despair, who was cut short or silenced in argument, who became unable to prosecute his journey, who was prevented from attaining his wish. You see the definition that they're given to Iblis or Ablasa. This is one that fell into a state of grief and misery and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But one fell by degrees because they couldn't have what it is that they sought. So this is where all our pain and our anguish come from. Not being able to accomplish what we are willing. Not getting caught up in the plane of things made manifest. So the will is misdirected. Islam?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's
now,
coming full circle.
In the Quran now. You hear it?
Repeat that.
I said, now this is the dictionary of the Quran.
Right. And if you could, how do you spell that root word of Iblis?
Balasa?
Yes.
It's Balasa, or sometime Ablasa, Ablasa. Islam?
Got you.
Yes, sir. And then it goes on, it states the Greek word dyslos, from which the English word devil is derived, is probably Hellenized from Iblis. It is a fact that the Greeks derived a good deal of their mythological concepts from the much earlier Arabian civilization. On the other hand, there is no evidence that pre-Islamic Arabs borrowed this or any other mythological term from the Greeks. Iblis was not one of the angels, he was one of the jinn and transgressed. Quran chapter 18, ayat 5. In verse 2, 36, it says he is called Satan. Iblis has been described in 2:34 as disobeying God, while the angels have been described as ever submissive and obedient. Surah 16, ayat 49, Surah 66, ayat 6. The jinn are from fire, and angels are from that of light. The fact of his rebellion is repeatedly stressed in the Holy Quran. Hence, Iblis could not be an angel. The theory of fallen angel is contrary to the Quranic teachings. Then it goes into Yublisu, which means he will despair. A mublisin, a mublisun, which is who art silent with grief, who art despairing, Iblis. The root with its above four form has been used in the Holy Quran about 16 times. Islam, and that's the end of the definition. So what have you to say about that measure, my brother?
No, it just makes me want to go into my research because I never really thought about the root of Iblis. But you bringing that measure forward and breaking it down, balasa, and the meaning of it, and just the words associated with it, it makes sense. So that's an enlightenment for me. I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. And this is why Noble Drew Ali taught, that there is no devil outside of the self. That devil is the lower self. When one falls from that state, it's just like they say Lucifer fell in his thinking. Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. Remember, these are degrees that one has to fall into, plummeting into, so to speak. Islam. So it goes on in ayat 2 here of our Moorish Holy Quran. It states, it is the character of thy being, the prerogative of thy nature. In thy breast alone it resided, without thee there is nothing of it. And behold, what is its source but thine own passions? As we was going through it, character. It is the character of thy being. It's the nature, the quality, the moral fiber, the person, the individual. It is in the passionate character, nature, and constitution of man's fallen state to be in misery. So when one falls in vibration, they become miserable. And they seek not only to seek comfort, so to speak, in that state, but they try to make comfort also reach those whom are outside of themselves. They want you to become comfortable. Most of the time, people get upset when they are going through in a state of misery and they can't pass this karma on to you, so to speak. They want you to feel exactly what they're going through. And if you can't empathize or sympathize with that, then you become the enemy. Because misery loves company. This is one that is looking for someone to be a scapegoat for their own suffering. Islam,
that's right on. That's facts, 100%.
Yes, sir. It goes on and it speaks on being. It states soul, mind, personality, essence, right? Then it goes in prerogative, choice, privilege, right, sanction, due. It states also passions, obsession, infatuation, delight, craze, rage, fury, anger, strong feelings, carnal desires. You see, all of this has to do with what we delight in. And that's where our suffering comes from. That's where that devil is created. Islam.
Those
That's why we
carnal
say,
desires. That's right.
that's right. And that's why we say we use the square and the compass. The compass per se to draw a circle around our passions and desires and keep them within the bounds of righteousness. We use the square itself for the purpose of, keeping our conduct square. You see, Islam.
Mm-hmm.
It goes on, it states in Ayat 3, it says, he who gave thee these gave thee also reason to subdue them. Exert it, and thou shalt trample them under thy feet. And that reason to subdue them is the higher self that he gave us to reason with. That becomes the logo, so to speak. We're supposed to exert our God self, and there we will be able to trample that lower self under our feet. You see?
I'm with you.
So, yes, sir. So when we go further into this measure, as it goes through, it gives more commentary. It says, he, the Elohim, 7 created spirits, soul giver, these body of desires, carnal nature, reason, right? It says cause, basis, purpose, wisdom, mind, rationalize. Then it says feet. Feet symbolize manifestations of the thoughts. In science, feet are thoughts of being exercised. Man travels by what he thinks, not how he walks. If her foot abided not in her father's house, and turn thy feet from her paths. Chapter 22, ayats 2 through 3, 22 through 3, pardon self, 1, 2, 3. That's the actual measure. It says the will determines the mastermind of a higher or lower thinking. Hence, reason follows thinking. That's a powerful measure. If we are able to reflect upon that drawing. I want to try to pull some up here. I had out earlier. Let me see if it pull it back up. Yeah, the adept questionnaire. I'm going to get an example of the expression. And this was basically my measure of going through, putting some pictorial background to what our chairman had did in these questionnaires. And this is dealing with this particular portion right here. What is our science? Our science is a living manifestation. I came here to show you how the Elohim took part in making, the physical portion of man, but also giving one a grand understanding, on the difference between spirit man and the physical man. In the teachings of the circle of the adepts, when it comes to information, and this is my chart that I created, to bring one grand understanding, so to speak. This would normally be referred to as a tree of life by many. And there's a tree of life in every particular text when you get into the lofty teachings of all of those teachings that you would study in different ways of life. It's always a tree of life present. In this case, we use the 5-pointed pentagram, or the open green star, to formulate, our principle of above and below. And you see the Elohim is the intermediary point, between that which is exalted as spirit man and then that which manifests, as physical man, and all the potentials that he come forth, or potencies he come forth with. The principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice derive from the ancient Egyptian principles of what we call harmony, truth, balance, right order, and justice. And notice I have justice here at the top, or the peak of this physical manifestation of man, because that's symbolic to the scimitar. You see? But then you see instability, inconstancy, weakness, insufficiency, and misery. And this is what is birthed on this plane that we call Asia, or the earthbound plane of existence. This is where Adam and Eve and their seeds, basically come from. They call it Ha Adam Ha Rishon. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Now, when you go into this particular measure above this, there was one known as Adam Kadmon, or Adam Kadmoni. It's a universal name across a lot of texts, especially Quran and the Torah and so forth and so on. Kadmoni actually deals with indigenous people, the Kadmonites. A whole nother race that existed before Adam and Eve come on to manifest. And that's in Genesis chapter 2, verses 4 through 7. How do we know this? Because Genesis chapter 1 deals with a man that came into being after everything else, like your trees and your animals come into existence. But this particular one, Adam Kadmon, came into existence in Genesis chapter 2, verses 4 through 7, before the plants, trees, or before water or anything came on to manifest. So you see two different expressions of Adam. In that same dictionary that I read to you, it actually speaks of there being more in the realm of even 100,000 atoms. So Adam just represents the beginning point, of a progeny or a decent nature that come through different families. Like you may be the Adam of your family. I'm the Adam of my family, if you want to get into using those types of words when it comes to the physical. But this spiritual man has been there always from the beginning, and he existed in conjunction in his divinity, with the God woman, so to speak. And we call this Ish and Isha. So Adam Kadmon consists of the duality, of our ancient mother and father, our spiritual mother and father, our true mother and father, Ish and Isha. That's why we say we are more Ish, more God, than we are mere men. Our sisters are more goddess than they are mere women. You see, and this Adon is where the name Eden come from. And when one is in a state of the garden, they are living within the realms of these principles. This also shows when our flag was pure white and it became red when we reached the rate of the atmosphere in our thinking, when we fell into the physical. You see what I'm saying? Because white mean purity, purity mean God, and God mean the ruler of the land. You see, this is also the measure why in the book of Genesis chapter 5, it says he created man and woman and called their name Adam. This is talking about Adam Kadmon, with this duality here that transcends gender. Because spirit don't have gender per se. You see, spirit just is what it is. There's no need for gender in the spirit plane. Is there anything you would like to say before I move on, brother?
No, not necessarily. I'm learning from this. I'm not very knowledgeable about this portion right here.
Yes, sir. And so what we find in this tree of life is the difference between spirit and the physical. So this is why we say in the 101 questionnaire, the descendants of Adam and Eve are Asiatics and Muslims. Asiatic means earthbound. That has to do with the physical body. That's why we say that our weaknesses, they come from the loins of our father in the womb of our mother when it comes to the physical aspect. You see? But when you talk about the Muslim degree existed long before the physical came on the manifest, because Muslim is the will of Allah in man. You see?
Okay.
Muslim is coming from the same root the word salam come from, which means peace. So peace always existed with the great God. We existed in what? Harmony, truth, balance, right, order, and justice. Is that not peace, the peace of God?
Right.
Before we fell into our thinking in the corner of the flesh. Now, yet that came through the possibility of the Elohim. That's why we say it was the Elohim that created the devil, that lower self, because those possibilities existed by coming into the physical form. That instability, inconstancy, weakness, insufficiency. These were foes that we will battle with. Go ahead, brother.
No, can you explain that? The Elohim?
Yes, sir. The Elohim had the power to create. And you actually see this. In fact, it tells you this in the questionnaire. They have the power to create and destroy. You know, the Most High gave the Elohim that special power. The Elohim were the ones who did the work of gathering, up the elements to be used to bring forth this physical body at his behest, the behest of the Creator. But the Creator breathed forth the 7 Elohim in the beginning of creation. Amidst this Elohim, man himself in his spirit form was also present before he took on the physical form. You see? So man in his spiritual state was among the Elohim. If you go into a lot of the texts of ancient Kemet and look upon the wall, you will see the body of a man with the hawk, which is actually synonymous in a lot of the Sumerian texts with the eagle. You see? If you look at it, then you have the head of a lion upon the body of man. You see? In the case of the Sphinx, you had the head of a man upon the body of a lion. You see? This symbolizes man mastering his animalistic passions and desires, his cravings, the mystery of man. That's the real enigma behind the Sphinx, right? So when you go into it, eagle, lion, and then you have the head of an ox on the body of a man, which you often see in Kemet and Sumeria as well. You see? And then you have man himself, eagle, lion, ox, man. Isolate all of the first letters. You have E, L, O, and M. The he portion that's placed in between the O and the M represents divinity. It represents holy breath. He, who. And you can find that right here in the name of God himself. Yahoo. Yahi, Yahoo. You see? Pay attention to these letters, which is what they call Proto-Sinaitic or Paleo-Hebrew. Yah, and they say way, or Yahuwah. You see, depending on how some people say Yahweh. But notice what makes up the name. There's a very important measure here, this Yah element. This Yah element represents God, in his singularity, so to speak. You can find that in the name that unite Ish and Isha. Aish and Isha. How? You see it has the letter A here, and this is the letter S and H here. And then this in itself is the letter H. Aisha. You see? Ashe. Sometimes they will translate that as E as well. And you see the letter A here, Aleph, that's Sheen here, and that's Yod. Now notice the only difference between the name Ish and Aisha, is these 2 letters. The other letters are the same. So these 2 letters, that are different within these names actually unite them in the name of Yah. You see? So that means man and woman is united in God, the supreme reality. This is spirit man and woman, our true mother and father, not Adam and Eve, Ish and Isha, spirit man and spirit woman, and not the physical flesh. With the physical flesh came the fall. That came the instabilities. But this spirit, parentage or lineage don't have that. It's not dealing with the fall. And this is what we have to get back to. That's where the Muslim degree come forth from. But notice also, here again, these 2 letters, the outstretched arms, arm, leg, arm, head. You see the arm here? These symbols represent Yah. Look up here in the name Yahuwah. You see it here just as you see it here. But if you read it this way, it's Hu-He. That's actually the ancient Egyptian way of saying it. It would be spelled H-U-H-I. Hu-He. That's the Egyptian way of saying this. This Yahuwah or Yahweh actually exists in Hebrew and Arabic. So we can see a connection between the Egyptian language, the Hebrew, and the Arabic in relation to dealing with the Tetragrammaton, which is the 4-letter word. This is why it says, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So man himself took place being amidst the Elohim. How do we know this? Go down to the bottom here. You have Alihim, which is the way you say Elohim properly. Look at the letters that make up the name Alihim, and look at these 2 letters right in the center. The name Yah is also present within the name Alihim. So these are the principles that work to bring forth creation. So man is spirit man. If you go back to the book of Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, when it speaks of the Spirit of God moving upon the face of the waters, this is speaking of man taking part in his own creation from a spiritual standpoint. He went on a pilgrimage through those 7 days, creating as an agent of creation along with the Elohim. Ain't that powerful, brother?
Now, what is the Elohim?
Again, the Elohim created everything that is or was or evermore will be. This is a rank of the celestials that were breathed forth by the Creator in the time of the beginning. When it says Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water, they were breathed forth. This is when the 7 were breathed forth, and man in his spiritual state was present then.
Okay, but you also said, you said Elohim had the power to create and destroy, a power given by the Most High.
That's right.
So the Elohim created everything from a power given by the Most High?
Basically, they were the ones who grabbed it was like, put it like this. This is how I always like to get an example to make it plain. If you go on a job, you have what you call a chief architect, right? And the chief architect is the one that has the blueprint. And they give the blueprint to all of those who will be, part and partial of doing the work of building a particular structure. So even though it may be me that might be doing a little paint, somebody that's over here laying bricks, somebody over here doing electricity and so forth and so on, who does the credit go to ultimately? The chief architect.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the same thing when it comes to dealing with the Creator. He created, but he utilized his agents of creator to bring creation into being. You see?
I got you.
They were all a part of the whole. So that's what all that come into play. But Adam and Eve, they didn't take part in bringing these things into creation. They came after the fact because they came on the 6th day, remember?
Yeah.
But Ish and Isha existed from the beginning with God. You got me?
I got you.
Yes, sir. And we can actually go into Proverbs 8 and it'll tell you all about that. But the main thing is even the Atik Yamin, which they call the Ancient of Days, Daniel chapter 7, verse 9 in the Piscean records, when it speak of one bad witness to when the books were first opened and the throne was set down and there were angels, that were on the manifest. The Atik Yamin goes back during that time, and this is also synonymous with one getting the grand drawing on, God, being present, and Adam Kadman being the vessel that God used. So this Adam Kadman, a spirit man, was made in the image of God himself. Adam, who was made on the 6th day, was made in the image of Adam Kadman, not God. You see?
Okay. Yeah.
So the spirit man was made in the image of God, and the physical man was made in the image of spirit man. You got me?
Got you.
See, a lot of people don't know this. But anyway, so that's the real manifestation of the Tetragrammaton. So when we go into this measure, all that brings us here. When we say our science is a living manifestation. Now let's pay attention to this tree of life. In fact, You see them breaking down, the Lord's Prayer here that they normally use in the Piscean records, which is synonymous to that of being just like the Al-Fatiha, which is the international prayer of the Moors. But anyway, notice Adam Codman is here up in the spiritual, like I showed you here, right? Above the neck. But then you will find, everything that manifested in the physical. This is where the evil was allowed to come in at. From the physical manifestation. This is called Asia. This is the kingdom of the earth. You see? Now, all of these different degrees of unfoldment had to do with different states of manifestation. They call them spheres, and they are degrees. You can study all of these alone. But the grand measure here to make it plain to you is that at each stage, there's a level of heaven. Let's do it like this. You have the hierarchy of angels. We teach that an angel is a thought of Allah manifested in the flesh. So when you come up here in the highest of the heights and you're dealing with man as spirit man, Adam Cadman, unmanifested creative force, the creator, right? This corresponds with this. But this is also called third heaven. In the 101 keys of Moorish America, it speaks of those who are of third heaven, the third heaven adept chamber of the Moorish Science Temple. We just said the temple was man himself, right? So third heaven is above the neck. An angel is a thought of Allah manifested in the flesh. Where is thought deposited in the body of man? Above the neck, right? You see? So in this realm, we call this the realm of seraphim, the angels of love. You see? Then you have thrones of the Ophanim. Understanding, these are other ranks of angels. You don't hear a lot of people talk about the Ophanim, but this is the throne. Then you have cherubim. You see, in chapter 1 of the Moorish Holy Quran, it says, "Hear now ye cherubim, ye seraphim, ye angels, and ye men." See, cherubim, seraphim, angel, and men represent the four quadrants that you often see around our flag and our seal and our emblem. You see, what is the nature of the cherubim and the seraphim? They are protectors. The seraphim actually becomes the expression of the spirit of the mighty God Allah, according to chapter 1 in the Moorish Holy Quran. So this is your God consciousness. That's why they call it Godhead, because your thoughts are immersed in consciousness of God. This is where the omnipotence of man is expressed through the omnipresence of God through your consciousness. Islam,
can you repeat that? You said your thoughts are immersed in the consciousness of God?
That's right.
Okay.
That's when you are one with God through deific will. As you willeth, as you think it, so are you. And that's why you hear us say, Moors, keep it above the neck. When we say keep it above the neck, we're talking about being right up here in third heaven. This is the source. This is the origin. We are thoughts of God made manifest. And God don't have dirty thoughts. We learn that from down here. When we get into the earth and we get into that physical realm. Up here, ain't no dirty thoughts and all that stuff going on. So the key of man is to get back to being up here in this state of mind. And they call that heaven on earth. That's what we call heaven on earth. You see? Yeah. So then notice it said wisdom. You'll hear us say a lot of time in our teaching, wisdom speak from out of the highest plane of spirit life. That's that degree, again, coming from the unmanifest, that creative force, the creator, the divine reservoir, third heaven. This is the true adept chamber of man. Above his neck, he carried everywhere he go. Islam. But then it goes in the second heaven, and then it talks about powers, dominions, the Koriotes, harmony, peace, mercy, forgiveness, forgiveness, pardon self, virtues, what they call the exousia, beauty. All this is dealing with the heart of man. There's a ladder which man climbs from, the heart, of his self up into the heart of Allah. We're not talking about a blood pumping organ. We're talking about the seat of consciousness. You see? Second heaven. But then when you go into the archangel, this is what man enters in. This is what we become swift angels at. By birthright. Our chairman conferred those degrees upon us. When you come into the government, you get an angel number. My angel number is number 4. It's a lot of history behind that. He's swift angel number 1 because that was conferred upon him by the Prince of Peace, Brother R. German Bay. You see what I'm saying? And so he made swift angels. You see? So every divine minister is a swift angel.
Now, did you have a connection to that number 4 prior to it being bestowed upon you?
Well, I would say after studying it and coming into the knowledge of it, yes, sir. It fits me as well. If you look up the angel number 4, it definitely fit my character. You can look these angel numbers up. The thing is, when he gave us these angel numbers, he didn't look at a chart. He assigned them, basically on the whim of divine inspiration. And so it was us who have to go and look up that name, and that number, so to speak, in regards to dealing with us being swift angels, and then find out our purpose.
Now, are these numbers confined to single digits, or could he also?
Oh, they go all the way up to the hundreds. It's
Gotcha.
certain. We got swift angel and the 199 and all that.
Yeah.
We got they go up in the 3 digits and all. Like you will probably be somewhere up in that realm yourself once you get a divine ministry document. I know you will. Actually, you'll be in the 3 digits. You see, but so it's powerful. But if you look, angel is the first degree. Notice to say here now, ye cherubim, ye seraphim, ye angels, and ye men. That's in chapter 1 of the Moorish Holy Quran. Here now, everything that is, was, and ever more to be. And so when you go into that special drawing, angel is the first degree. That's first heaven. You see, but when you go beyond that to the second heaven and you get all the way up in third heaven, now you go from cherubim into seraphim, being one with God again, the creator. You see what I'm saying? But this is man himself down here beneath the barriers of time and space, because we got to go beyond the barriers of time and space to even demonstrate the angelic degree. The race is not merely to the swift angel, but to those who endure to the end. If you know anything about Moorish science, we use the Bactrian camel, which has 2 humps. And that's the symbol of the tribe of endurance, which represent our Grand National Chairman, and the goddesses who are with him. You see what I'm saying?
Islam.
And so endurance is the key. Not only was he a swift angel, but he has endured. So the race is not merely to the swift angel, but to those who are able to endure in this work till the end. And there have been many who have fallen by the wayside, brother.
Yep.
Who actually had came into this body and they are not here anymore. They doing other things or whatever the case be, because they were given the degree of swift angel, but they didn't have enough to hold themselves in the divinity, so they couldn't endure to the end. And there's a measure that speaks about this Bactrian beast that we call a Bactrian camel. It states that my Bactrian camel is well saddled and equipped for the journey along the way. So that means if one's Bactrian camel is not well saddled and equipped, with endurance for the journey along the way, then one won't be able to make the journey. Islam. And this just has to do with how well one is prepared to go through these degrees of unfoldment when it comes to self-mastery. You see, so I'm giving you deep science
Yeah.
behind this concept of dealing with the higher self versus the lower self right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, as I showed you here, you know, you have your archangels, you know, the princes, principalities, victory, because it's 9 orders of angels in all actuality. Through the number 9, we say the number 9 represent re-entry, birth. You know what I mean? And so we go through the science of 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And the degrees of 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 is the way in which we are able to exercise within the realms of our Moorish science. 1 has to do with the oneness of the Creator. 3 has to do with the triune Allah, which is wisdom, will, and love. You see, 3-step ladders, you know, everything you can think of, you know, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, all them things you can put in that particular category. And also we deal with the science of 5, you know, which is the 5 highest principles known to man, and everything in retrospect to that, us becoming masters, you know, of that special demonstration. You know, our ability to think, will, reason, understand, and remember who made us, the acts of the soul, or the actions of the soul. You know, the 7 deal with perfection. You know, in the body, you know, the Revelations, the book of Revelation, they call it the 7 churches of Asia, where Asia is the body. So the 7 churches of Asia really represent the 7 chakras in the body. You see? Which are also referred to 7 lampstands in certain texts. You see? The 7 heavens in the Grand Quran.
Mm.
And Muhammad was said to go through the 7 heavens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see? And be initiated into the mysteries of the self by the angel Jibril.
Okay. Now I have a question, because I was studying the Quran.
Yes, sir.
And you just said something about the angel Jibril, but
That's
you
right.
also defined an angel as a thought made manifest in the flesh.
That's right.
So now you got to clarify it for me, because I'm a little confused.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just break that down for me?
Yes, sir.
What's going on?
Remember, an angel is a thought of Allah manifested in flesh. So if Muhammad went through the 7 heavens within himself, then that angel Jibril had to be teaching him through his own conscious vessel. You see? And this is what we mean. So we take the spookism outside. And this is the way a master teacher, a guru, is able to teach a student. Master teachers teach you from the soul plane, brother. You can have one on the manifest with you, and if they're a master teacher, they can come to you in your, some people like to call it sleep conscious, lucid consciousness, and they can teach you on the plane of soul. I met my chairman on the plane of soul in the early stages of coming into the government. In other words, the Hierophant, the grand Hierophant, is within you, and that's what Jibril was to Muhammad. He was his Hierophant. He was the grand Hierophant that taught him or initiated him into the mysteries of mastery. Islam.
Okay.
So it all had to do with his level of thinking and tapping into the consciousness of the presence of that angel Jibril within himself. Islam.
Okay. I have more questions.
Go ahead, my brother.
But I don't want to deter the show.
Oh, no, you are right. It's good that you asked the question, and therefore I can give the answer.
All right. Well, my questions are related, but it goes into studies I was doing on my own, and references that I drew from your show.
Mm-hmm.
So I was reading the Quran Sharif, and I don't know if you're familiar. You should, yeah. You would definitely be familiar with the story, but it's sort of 20, verse 67 and 68. I could read it to you if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead, my brother. No problem.
All right. So verse 67. So Moses conceived in his mind a sort of fear. We said, "Fear not. for thou hast indeed the upper hand. Now, I have a few questions about this. I don't know if you need more context to it, but this has to do with Moses and the magicians. You know, he was encountering the magicians with the staff, and you know, he was told to go to them, and they had that little duel, what have you not, right? So Moses conceived in his mind a sort of fear. We said, "Fear not, for thou hast indeed the upper hand." So that made me think: was that inconstancy within Moses that had to be worked out?
That was impatience within Moses. You know, but and the reason why we emphasize that is because one that is known as Al-Kidder was sent to teach Moses patience. Remember, he was learning all the ways of the Egyptians. Both the Quran and the Bible state this. You see what I'm saying? So that fear was a result of his impatience. And, you know, that's basically what he was being taught, that you got all this wisdom and knowledge of the Egyptian, and, you know, but, you know, patience. Because what does impatience have to do with? You know, what does it spark within the human being? Desperation.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Fear.
Anxiety. Yeah.
And then you can get into all the inconstancy and everything else that come with it. So these are doorways that open up other possibilities. You see? In different degrees of false evidence that appears real, because that's what fear is. F-E-R-A, false evidence appearing real.
I see that's a common theme, Islam, when it comes to the stories about Moses or the teachings. A little bit further down the line, it says, this is verse 77. We sent an inspiration to Moses, travel by night with my servants and strike a dry path for them through the sea, without fear of being overtaken by Pharaoh and without any other fear. Then Pharaoh pursued them with his forces, but the waters completely overwhelmed them and covered them up.
That's right. Yes, sir. And that's the key. It had to do with reliance upon the divinity. But you got to remember, even in the Piscean records, when it speak of Moses, you know, to be honest with you, Moses himself was being told that the great God was present. He was present within Moses himself. Moses was the vessel. That's why he said, who am I to say it is that has sent me? In the Piscean records, in the Bible, he said, say Ea Asha'ea. I am that I am. I am deal with the self. So we tell you, when Moses met the burning bush, he actually met with himself, his higher self. And actually, this was God, the Godhead. He was in third heaven. And God actually said to Moses, he said, see that I have made you a God to Pharaoh, and I have made your brother Aaron your prophet. There's a measure where Moses even came into the fullness of himself, and he proclaimed it in the Piscean records. He said, I led you throughout the wilderness. I fed you with manna and quail. I gave you sandals for your feet and clothing for your back, and did this all in 40 years, that you may know that I am the Lord your God. This is what Moses said, now, according to the Bible. You see what I'm saying? In other words, he recognized that God was using him as a vessel. He wasn't saying that out of egotism.
Right.
He was saying that I am the manifestation that God has sent to represent himself to you. And when we come into consciousness, we become the same as representation and representatives of the Creator. This is why we say when we look into the face of man, we look into the face of Allah. This is why we say in the chapter dealing with the unity of man and Allah, we say man is spirit clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. Islam.
So when these texts, they always say, well, frequently they'll say we sent an inspiration. Who is this we that's speaking in the Holy Scriptures.
The same as the Elohim that are manifest as us. When it says, let us make man in our image. This is representing the collective thought of the Creator, because remember, the Elohim will breathe forth from the divinity of the consciousness. So these are thoughts made manifest. You see?
That's exactly what I was thinking. So would another word just be angels?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And this is what I thought months ago, but I wasn't sure. Because I'm like, it has to be angels that are saying we.
Yes, sir. And that's why
that makes
it
sense.
says, for example, angels hear and obey. They don't know how to disobey the Creator. It's not in their nature to do that. You see? But when you deal with a cherubim and a seraphim, they have been given a certain authority to exercise will. And that's why Iblis was more in that realm, or the jinn realm, or cherubim and seraphim. They have ability to exercise will, and that's why they were placed in rank over certain things.
This is like, man, this is making a lot of stuff just make sense to me that I had questions about. Just when you were showing me the tetragrammaton and this display you have up here, it was really hard for me to follow it. But even myself just taking note and asking a question, and now I see how it's related, and then you really just made it all come together. So that just brought a lot of wow. For me personally, I needed that, because it just made things clear for me that I've been thinking about and pondering on. So that was very profound to hear you give that affirmation, or just clarity, or you just teaching. But for me, that was affirmation.
Islam. And that's why I went there. I didn't go there because I intended to go here. This is where the Spirit took me, and so it was meant for you to get that drawing. And those who are paying attention, it was meant for them to get the drawing as well. You see? And this all has to do with the knowledge of self. And want to give honors to the brother Neil Bay as well. Like he said, we are the angels. And I'm going to put this out here too, in the link in there, brother Neil Bay. If you still there and you want to come in, you're more than welcome to come to the panel and give your measure as well, God, man. So, this is powerful, brother. I just wanted to show you how well we are made, since we were dealing with the Elohim and the 7 created spirits, and we understand now where the body and the desires and the carnal nature comes from. You see what I'm saying? And so it goes on. It says, note ayats 4 through 11 are about births and deaths. Ayat 4. It says, thine entrance into the world, is it not shameful? Thy destruction, is it not glorious? Lo, men adorn the instruments of death with gold and gems, and wear them above their garments. We see this all the time in the modern time. The youth think it's good to put a chopper on a necklace. They think it's good to put a gun on a necklace. Some people like to wear the cross, which is a symbol of death. You know what I mean? And we can go into many different expressions of it. But it goes on in the commentary. It says the entrance of man into the world is a single expression of the holy breath of Allah. It says, and the gift of soul being manifested in human body. You see, and we don't want to confuse the soul with being the body, because the soul is one thing, the body is one thing, and the spirit is one thing. That's why we are told in chapter 1 of the Moorish Holy Quran that spirit man was given a soul to function upon the plane of soul. And he was given a body of flesh to function upon the plane of things made manifest. This is why you hear about the angels ascending and descending upon the ladder of Jacob in the Bible, the Piscean records. You see what I'm saying? These are thoughts that man ascend up into his consciousness. He is able to bring those thoughts from on high, as wisdom speak from out of the highest plane of spirit life. And when he comes back into the manifest, he could share those great thoughts with his brother man. This is what prophets are able to do. And we are able to communicate with the ancestors and prophets the same way when we become adept. But it takes a little bit of dieting and purifying the heart and the mind and making the mind be still, meditation and contemplation to be able to get to this state. Go ahead, my brother.
I think popularly, soul and spirit are thought to be the same thing. Can you break down what the difference is?
Well, in all actuality, soul is nothing more than spirit vibrating at a slower rate, so to speak, but yet the spirit itself is untouched by what the soul can be influenced by. Soul is what we actually influence by our duality, our desires, and our passion, but spirit's not influenced by that. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so the spirit is more like the charioteer, the one that's driving the chariot. And the soul is the chariot or the vehicle itself. And both of these are within the vehicle that we call, the body.
Yep.
You see? And it gives an actual breakdown on this same drawing. I'm going to go back to my breakdown on the questionnaire because I put these pictorial expressions together, based upon the questions our chairman brought on the manifest. I'll show you what I'm talking about right here. In the question where it says, what is the symbol of Islam? The olive tree. So what we find in the Grand Quran of Muhammad, we find in the Surah Al-Nur, we was talking about Nur last night. It says Surah 24, Ayat 35. Listen to this symbolism. And it says Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. We told you the heavens is that which is above the neck, right? The earth is the body itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Allah is the divine light of the mind and the body. It says the parable of his light is as if there were a niche and within it a lamp. And you see the niche here, which is synonymous with the soul. You see the lamp here, which is synonymous with the spirit. In Kemet, this is called the Ba in the Ka. This is the true Kaaba. You see? Within man. So it goes on. It says the lamp enclosed in a glass. The glass, as it were a brilliant star lit from a blessed tree, which I gave this example here in symbolism. You see? But notice the glass in the form of the star forms Aleph, Lam, Lam, Aleph, Ha. Arm, leg, leg, arm, head. Symbolic to man himself. You see? So then it goes on, and this is dealing with the higher self again. It says, lit from a blessed tree, an olive, neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil is well nigh luminous, though fire scarcely or barely touch it. Light upon light, and Allah doeth guide whom he will to his light. Allah doeth set forth parables for men, and Allah doeth knoweth all things. So you ask us, the symbol of Islam is the olive tree, but it tell you that the angels' complexion, according to the 101s, of their skin tone is olive. And olive comes in many different hues, from the darkest or the ripest of the ripe to the lightest of the light when it comes to our people. You see, but the oil from the olive tree is synonymous with divine and luminous wisdom. This is light. So it goes on, it says in Surah 24, also Ayat 36, it say, lit is such a light in houses which Allah hath permitted to be raised to honor. You, being a temple of perfected man, is a house that has been permitted to be raised to honor. You see, for celebration in them of his name, and in them he is glorified in the mornings and the evenings again and again. Meaning that one has become so immersed in this divine wisdom to where it is a cyclic pattern that takes a place within one's consciousness. One has become fixed just like a star within the heaven, within their own divinity. They don't have to try to do it now. They just are being that now. You got me?
Islam. I think
Yes,
we may have a brother that's
I
trying
think
to get in. I'm not sure.
that might be our brother Neil Bay. Yeah, that's our brother Neil Bay. Islam. Islam, grand man. How you be, Sheik? Okay, let me open this other one up here. Okay, there you go. All right, how you doing, Sheik?
Peace and love, peace and love. Hey, brother, don't you stop doing what you're doing. I'm outside meditating under this this moon here. It's changing colors on me. Keep doing what you're doing. Praise Allah.
Islam, grand man. Well, anytime you ready to chime in and give a measure, you definitely got the flow. So, yes, sir. Gratitude. We
Appreciate
just
y'all.
glad for your presence being here. Islam. Islam, brother Dwight Wilson Jr. Bay. You more than welcome to chime in. Click that link and you can come right up in here and get on this panel as well. And exercise your fire. All are welcome here, family. Yes, sir.
We gotta get our brother Soul L in the building. Where is he at?
Yeah, I'm surprised he hadn't come in yet. He might come in. You know, sometimes Soul come in a little late.
Yeah.
You know, but
It's wrong. As you were sharing that on the soul and the spirit, it sounds so clear. You don't hear the spooky side.
That's right.
You hear it in a more scientific manner.
Islam.
And you ain't got to be a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America or none of that. And you say, you know what? I can hear that. I can see that. And you know why I can say that? Because I'm outside, right? And we out here meditating on the moon. And one of my Mexican brothers, who's a delivery guy, he was just here getting the fifth of what you were sharing. And he said, yeah, I like that. See, truth is only but one, brothers and sisters. And it'll hit all over the head, across the back, across the neck. So I just say honest to you because you was able to break down what is spirit and the job of the soul and not get caught up or trapped up in breaking down the two because there is a big difference.
That's right.
So
That's right.
a lot of preachers can't do that, y'all. A lot of ministers who can't do that, y'all. It's a lot of imams, scholars who can't give you these. What we look at is like, oh, okay, yeah, I read through that. I know that. Islam.
Yes, sir. Islam. And in the light of that same measure, you know, my brother, what it is that a lot of people don't know. The prophet said like this: call these not the soul, but the actions of the soul, thinking, willing, reason, understanding, remembrance. So it is the spirit that's actually dictating, you know, us on how to think, will, reason, understand, and remember. Who made us? How to tap into that registry, that book of Allah's registry of remembrance. You hear him talking in Al-Islam about zikra of Allah, you know, the remembrance of Allah, you know, and the greatest remembrance has to do with one going within the self. Our brother's talking about meditation, brother Neil Bay, you know, and meditation is actually when you listen to God. Prayer is when you talk to him. Meditation is when you listen to him. You see, you hear that still but small voice that speak within. And that's corresponding to messengers, inspiration, or that angelic host, or the thoughts that are sent to man through his own flesh. Is not the master of the house more honorable than its walls? Because it's the master of the house, which is the spirit, the God that's actually dictating to the flesh of one's own divinity, one's own measure that take one beyond the plane of things made manifest. You see, so yeah, we try to definitely bring that measure out of the spooky realm into reality. And like you said, this is more science, and everybody can get it. You know, the lion can lay down with the lamb, and all can have a grand measure.
That's right.
In regards to dealing with this drawing. Islam.
Islam. And you know, A lot of so-called grand sheiks and officers can't do what you just did. So I want our brothers and sisters to be able to pick up from Allah, you see, because we don't have time, brothers and sisters, to keep getting caught up into if my man or my one man didn't say
Facts.
it, it ain't true,
Facts.
or I don't
Facts.
want to hear it, or I'm going to bypass it because Allah is speaking to us through us. That ain't spooky, Islam.
That's right, my brother. And we got to go beyond the messenger, because that's all I'm doing. I'm just demonstrating the message, and we have to go beyond, the chemistry into the ministry, and then go, and expose that special mystery, and then we can cross the borderland at will in our thinking. Some of our people want to be adept, but they don't want to cross the borderland. They scared to cross the borderland, brother Neil Bay. What you think about that?
Well, because they not adapts that's made by Allah, they adapts that's made by man. It's a big difference. And I don't say that to be funny, but
no, you
for
telling the truth, Mo.
many years in the Moorish Science Temple of America, what it was in 1970s and the 80s and the 90s, it's not that now. And they got a lot of mumble jumble dressed up as this or that, and it ain't that, y'all. You see what I'm saying? So you got to be one who really tie in with Allah. You got to listen, and you got to test the spirits, brothers, and hear the complaints and rumors of them all, which means you got to go sit with all these brothers and sisters who say they ills and babes who will their way to Allah.
That's right.
And you got to have an ear to hear.
That's right.
Islam. And you're going to see a lot of them can talk they can talk the talk, but they can't communicate it to you in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. That means get away from there. Yeah, it's shining. It look good, but it ain't good. That's that apple that the prophet was talking about, Moors. Islam.
That's right. That's right, brother. The prophet say the same truth that drew you will drive you. And one know the truth in the presence of it. And brother, that's true what you just said. Like, in fact, that's one of the things we teach. We tell you quick that man can't make you no adept. And in fact, the last adept degree, or the white F.O.E.S degree, has to be conferred upon you by God himself. He is the one that confirms your title, and demonstrate the truth and the proof of your messiahship, if you are worthy of such. Islam, no man can give you that. And also, there's a measure on how one raises their ability to think, will, reason, understand, and remember to the level of spirit. And it has to do with tapping into what we call the immortal virtues of the soul. And the immortal virtues of the soul are basically dealing with justice, mercy, love, and right. When you deal with justice, mercy, love, and right, these also represent the 4 quadrants that surround that circle 7. That surround, the scimitar and the star, that surround, the crescent, moon, and star, and so forth and so on. Justice, mercy, love, and right. See, a lot of people don't talk about that, but this is where the mother of virtue.
Islam. And can I add what you
yes,
just
sir.
said?
Go ahead, my brother.
What you just said. When y'all brothers and sisters are getting into it with these so-called scholars of Islam from the east of Arabia or whatever. I mean, I don't want to be funny and I don't want to disrespect nobody, whether they call themselves Sunni, Shiite, etc.
Right. That's right.
But when they try to judge Noble Drew Ali and his work, well, you let them know that he did it in righteousness. He did it in the name of Allah.
That's right.
So stop for Allah. Allah forbids one to come behind after someone does something in his name in honor for him and worthy of him. So y'all got to start checking these particular ones who will try to tell you about Noble Drew Ali.
Teach
Islam.
And I actually reached out to some of the Arabs, because a lot of those who have been speaking to these Arabs are not qualified to have that conversation, because they don't even know how to have that conversation. Truth be told, brother Neil Bay, you know what I'm talking about.
Correct.
Ones haven't delved that deep. So when they get out there, they actually make the body look bad, when they get out there talking to these people and they don't even know how to have that conversation. So, man, them some powerful measures there. What you think about them drawing, Brother Jay?
Hey, my bad. I just had to grab something real quick. I don't know if you were wondering where it was.
Oh, no, all is well. I was just asking what you were thinking about the measure that our brother Neil Bay and us was just drawing on, the part you did catch. What's your measure, brother?
I mean, the main takeaway for me so far tonight is just that the clarity you brought about the Elohim, the angels, the soul, the spirit, the God consciousness. So while I was away just now, I was just thinking about like you've said it before, but I was just thinking about like how God communicates with us, and that's really through I guess the higher mind. Like the brother saying he was meditating, and you was
That's
like
right.
meditating is how you listen to God, and praying is how you I think you said how you talk to God. And I was just thinking about that. How do we communicate with God? So I was just in my mind about that. And I also wondered, where I was thinking like you know, do we need a book to know God?
Well, the key is all the books that we have been given are really chapters of the great book. In the Arabic, in the Grand Quran, they like to refer to it as Lawhi al-Mahfuz, or what they call the mother of the book, the preserved tablet, or being able to read the book of creation. See, when we get into an adept way of thinking, we are able to read the book of creation itself, and that's when we are able to really go into the text of what the great God Allah is teaching one. One example of looking at the book of creation, for example, if we understand the nature of seasons and what come forth with time, we understand that certain seasons that, for example, the fall represents, the death. Spring represents resurrection. You see what I'm saying? And I mean, we can go in many different aspects. Fall also represents the hidden, when spring represents the manifest of everything that had become hidden, we can say secluded away from life. It now manifests itself again in its cycle as life, evermore, so to speak. So these are examples that we can look at and learn from if we were to read the book of creation. But that's a symbol of what we call death and resurrection, birth and rebirth, birth, death, and rebirth. Just examples like that. You see, and so when you're able to read the book of creation, you see that's the real Quran. One of the breakdowns our brother C. Freeman L. gave to our Moorish Holy Quran was knowledge, order, rhythm, astrology, astronomy, I guess, and nature. You see, Koran. You got to be able to read those books. But every other book that we have in our hand, the physicality of those books, they strengthen us. We have to become strengthened in that knowledge in order to understand greater things. Islam.
Can you break down that acronym one more time of the Quran?
Yeah, the brother, gave it as knowledge, order, rhythm, astronomy, and nature. Some people say astrology and nature. Koran. You see?
Okay.
Yes, sir. And so, yeah, that's a grand drawing. Let me get back to this F.O.E real quick here and tap into it. We say man caused this day of his birth and life, yet there can not be a greater glory, but man wallowing in the miseries of his fallen state has made the wonderfulness of his birth a shame. Today, man glorifies the causes rather than the cause of his death as the endings of his being. You see, it's not the cause of a death, it's the call of a death. You see, that matters. You know, or any situation that we go through, we get caught up into the cause of things as opposed to the call or the calling. You see, and that comes with misery. That brings misery. That breeds misery. So, Ayat 5, it says, "He who begetteth a man hideth his face, but he who killeth 1,000 is honored." Begetted means to create, produce, the cause of. You know, hideth his face, meaning in shame, fret, to publicize, not glorified or honored. Right? So this is a drawing in and of itself. You know, why is it like that? You know, most people want to honor the killer now. You see? But those who come forth with seeds, they are ashamed to be a man and to be a father. This is a powerful demonstration when it comes to this Moorish Holy Quran, because it's actually touching on the exact things that are going on now. That's how you know it's divinely inspired. But it goes on to state, it says, "Know thou notwithstanding that it is this, that in this is error. Custom cannot alter the nature of truth, and neither can the opinion of man destroy justice, the glory, and the shame are misplaced." You often hear me say that. The general opinion of men would never alter the nature of the truth. You see? But then it goes on, it says, "This is error. Man's miserable way of thinking, rather than thoughts of perfection, is error. Custom, which is tradition, routine, practice, ritual, habit, pattern, these carnal customs of man do not change the infinite fact. Man is God." So a lot of time people get caught up into rites, ceremonies, and forms and customs. You know, but God is not found in the ritual. He's not found in the rite, ceremony, and the form. He's found in the individual, you know, that call itself practicing the ritual, if one would but look within the self. Islam.
Islam, brother.
Yes, sir. And so it goes on in Ayat 7. It says, "There's but one way for a man to be produced, and there are 1,000 by which he may be destroyed." And the commentary states, "Man is spirit, and as a thought is produced only from the very heart of the great God. This is the true source of the life of spirit man, and not to be confused with the 9 months of human development. As parents, mothers, and fathers can give the likeness of their flesh and bones, but cannot to their child the spirit nor the soul. When man lives, it is because the great God Allah thought him from his heart. So our life comes from being a thought of God manifested in the flesh, and we call this holy breath. Do you know, my brother, that scientifically speaking, that when you get into the aspects of truly demonstrating the breath, because you hear a lot of people talk about breath, you even have people that will fast to the extent that where they become breatharians. They go beyond fasting on water. They learn how to fast on the breath. And what we learn is through cellular respiration, brother. You don't even need to breathe in order to demonstrate cellular respiration. Did you know that?
I did not. Nope.
Do some research on cellular respiration. You will find that the holy breath is already activated within the cells of the nature. And this ain't got nothing to do with physically breathing. This all has to do with divinely breathing. Islam.
Islam. I'm going to do my research on that.
Yes, sir. Look it up. Check it out, my brother. Now it goes on in Ayat 8. It says, "There is no praise or honor to him who giveth being to another, but triumphs and empire are the rewards of murder." It goes on in the commentary. It says, from the pessimistic and unholy energies of the Europeanized competition, secret societies, and oppression of the masses, the great values of deific life and justifiable murders via the laws of man have been socially reversed and accepted as natural. Because of this misappropriation of social duties, misery is today commonplace in the affairs of the nations of the earth. Man, that's males right there. And we see this taking place right now. That old goat, huh? Misery. Now we can say the five foes look like they are undefeated, right? Except as one coming to a state of self-mastery. But as far as being on the manifest, going to and fro, seeking whom they may devour, oh my goodness. Make you want to say lions and tigers and bears, oh my. But anyway, it goes on to say in Ayat 9, it said, yet he who hath many children hath as many blessings, and he who hath taken away the life of another shall not enjoy his own. It says, having children. This is dealing with the highest creative force of being God, is being fruitful and to multiply himself. Procreation, right? Blessings, benefits, assistance, help, gainful, consent, approval, sanction, permission, right? Then you have the life, the center, the heart. A life is the axis of one's existence, the cause of being, the reason for living, the source of energy, the purpose for one to live, spirit and soul. Many of our people have not the true definition of what life is truly spent to build. They don't know what life really is. That's why they don't care about taking it, so to speak, as they do. It says, shall not enjoy his own. This is the spirit that possessed a life while in the form of a body, and the cycle of perfecting life has been interrupted by the murderous intents of another, will not rest until that soul too has also been cleansed from the sins of hatred. Islam. You have a measure you would like to bring on that, Brother Jay?
Oh, no, it's just taking note. Having children, the highest creative force of being God is being fruitful and to multiply himself. I was taking note on that.
Yes, sir. That's right. Yes, sir. Re-entry. We are the return of the ancient ones. We are the ones whom we await. Ain't nobody else coming but us. Islam. In Ayat 10, it says, while the savage curses the birth of his son and blesses the death of his father, doeth he not call himself a monster? Savage. A savage is a vicious or violent person with carnal and negative thoughts now conjoined in the physical image of the human being, e.g. NBC monster. We got gangsters that took the name monster. We have our people, they love to say they live in a savage life. They're savage. That's the coin word people use. This one is a real savage, a demon. You hear all that terminology. Ain't that right, Brother Jay?
All the time, man. All the time. I think that came out of the Midwest, and your boy Lil Boosie also brought that in back in the day too.
Yeah, that's why I said.
And Webby, yeah.
Yep, coming up. Yeah, as youngsters and so forth and so on, you sure right. And it goes on, it says monster, nationless people, property made in the likeness of man, creditless, exile, homeless. That's the real monster right there. It goes on in Ayat 11, it says, the greatest of all human ills is sorrow. Too much of this thou art born unto, add not unto it by thine own perversedness. You're already in a state, of calamities, so don't make it worse. That's basically what it's saying. It says sorrow is the master foe of all human ills. Human sicknesses are mental enslavements of the mind. They are cerebral traumas and non-physical foes that engage war upon the actions of his soul, e.g., thinking, reasoning, willing, understanding, remembrance. Human ills should not be confused with diseases of the flesh, because the flesh has no power to think or bones to reason. Flesh, ills, cancer, diabetes, ulcers, arthritis, etc. are physical enemies of the human body. It is unnatural for any living species to be unable to heal itself. But human ills like misery reside in man's breast alone and are chosen by the weaknesses in his nature. It says too much of this sorrow is largely based upon the carnal customs of man. Perversiveness is willfully determination not to do the good that is expected of you. It is the choosing to think evil, mean, stubborn, rebellious, awkwardness, unreasonableness, wavering, contrary, corrupt, unruly, and wicked. Perverse is lack of good thinking. And we see too many of our people demonstrating like that. What you think, Brother Jay?
I like this line right. Oh, I have to. Can you scroll up just a little
Yes,
bit,
sir.
bro? It is unnatural for any living species to be unable to heal itself. And I also liked human ills should not be confused with diseases of the flesh, because the flesh has no power to think or bones to reason. So
That's
those
right.
that stood out to me. Quick question.
Yes, sir.
Misery and sorrow, are those just synonyms? Same thing?
Yeah, pretty much. Sorrow basically is most definitely a cousin or a kinsman to this foe that we
Okay.
call, misery. There are different degrees. These are those other hidden doors.
That's
One
right.
will open up the way for the other. You see what I'm saying?
Islam.
Yeah, sorrow will open up the way for misery just as much as misery will open up the way for sorrow. Islam?
Islam.
Yes, sir. In Ayat 12, it says, grief is natural to thee and is always about thee. Pleasure is a stranger and visit thee by times. Use well thy reason, and sorrow shall be cast behind thee. Be prudent, and the visits of joy shall remain long with thee. Grief, in the commentaries it states, is an employee of misery, with woes, heartaches, unhappiness, pain. It says co-workers. It says prudent means to be careful, sensible, wise, cautious. So notice every time you see, like you said, there's a polarity here. When it mentions one measure, in the low, it tells you the highest vibration. You see?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it gives an example of both the problem and the solution to the problem. Islam,
Islam.
that's what you call living mathematics right there. Islamism. It says also in Ayat 13, it says, every part of thy frame is capable of sorrow, but few and narrow are the paths that lead to delight. That's that many of the ways by which one can be destroyed, but one way by which one can be saved. You see? It says thy frame, your frame is the sole constitution character that was given to spirit man by creative fate. Remember, creative fate gave the soul, a spirit of soul that it might function upon the plane of soul, and the body of flesh to function upon the plane of things made manifest. It says your frame is the totality of how you have structured yourself and have cultivated the soil of your soul, which is really the mind. Islam?
Islam.
Yes, sir. It says in Ayat 14, it says, pleasures can be admitted only simply, but pains rush in 1,000 at a time. And boy, is that truth when it comes to life. You know what I mean? It
That's
says,
right.
remember, life is spent to build a temple of perfected man. When one is not living their life to the maximum of this task, they will experience pains. Pains are warning signs displayed of the contradictions toward a perfect life. The adjustments and acceptances of pains explain why man is so unshaken in life of misery. You hear people all the time talking about they want to live their best life. But they think that had to do with things that are attained on the plane of things made manifest. You see, when the best life actually has to do with the best that is within one. Islam?
Islam.
Yes, sir. In Ayat 15, it states, as the blaze of straw fadeth as soon as it's kindled, so passes away the brightness of joy, and thou knowest not what became of it. So basically, no longer than one gain joy, they end up falling back into that state of sorrow and grief and misery. You see what I'm saying? It says, faster than fire can ignite gasoline. Misery will replace the things you most enjoy before there's a reason to be happy. Remember that's the song Joy, Pain, Sunshine, and Rain? Goodness gracious. Who is that? Betty Wright that made that song No Pain, No Gain? Yeah, man. Wow. Ayat 16. It says, sorrow is frequent, pleasure is rare, pain cometh of itself, delight must be purchased, grief is unmixed, but joy wanteth not its alloy of bitterness. You see? So one don't want, everybody want to see the baby, but don't nobody want to see, the labor pains or feel the labor pains. Islam.
Islam, that's right.
Yes, sir. And it goes on, it says, alloy is a blend, a mixture, combination of a subject. Alloy often appear as the opposites, but in reality are contingent of an entity. For example, in F.O.E.S number 1, weakness and strength, although unlike, are directions on the same pole. Hence, the alloy of frequent is rare, pleasure is pain, delight is grief, the alloy of joy is bitterness. That's why I say it's a time for everything. A time, to heal, a time to kill, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. These deal with the alloys, so to speak, of these degrees of duality. Ayat 17. It says, as the soundest health is less perceived than the lightest malady, it says, so the highest joy touches us less deep than the smallest sorrow. That's a real powerful measure. And that's fact, But it goes on, it says, malady has to do with problem, difficulty, trouble, and woe. Man, it goes on, it says, Ayat 18, we are in love with anguish, and we often fly from pleasure. When we purchase it, costs it not more than it's worth? Anguish is misery, suffering, torment, agony, grief, angers, Agnes. It says distress, sorrow, and torture. Man, that's a pain freak is what they call that. In the, just being straightforward and blunt. Ayat 19, it says, reflection is the business of man. A sense of his state is his first duty. But who remembereth himself a boy? Is it not in mercy then that sorrow is allotted unto us? Reflection, it says, rest upon the soul's action of remembrance. To reflect is to recall the likeness or image of a noun, person, place, or thing, right? Reflection is necessary for man to remember he and the great God are one. Remembrance is contingent upon thinking. Powerful. Yes, sir. What you think about that, Brother Jay?
Yeah, that I'm taking notes on that one right there. Reflection is necessary for man to remember. Um, and I really like the ayat, the opening. Reflection is the business of man.
That's right.
These ayats right here, man, I just feel like they're so valuable for people who may be having a hard time in life, or who are struggling to understand why they're in the situations or conditions that they're in. Like, as I've said to you before, I think a lot of people need this message. You know, it could really help people transform their lives. This is personal development. This is school. And I think this is class in school that all responsible people should go through. So you have my full support with it. You know, I'm always here every class. I got my notifications on. Everyone knows, so y'all should turn y'all notifications on so y'all not late. Drop some comments. You know, let's get it lively in here. Let's build.
Yes, sir. Self Mastery 101. Yes, sir. Yeah, we give honors to you, brother, for being present. Let me see if we had anybody else in here. Our brother, yes, sir. Our brother spoke on that Sufism. Neil Bay. He says Sufism leads the adept called Salik, or the Wayfarer, and his Saluk or road through different stations. The Makam, that's right, until he reaches his goal, the perfect Tawheed, and the existential confession. You see, and it says of the, and I would actually go into the state of being one. But that's a powerful measure that brother brought on the manifest. Praise be to Allah. Honor to our brother Neil Bay, for his support as well. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's a powerful demonstration there. Let me go back and proceed on. It says, Ayat 20, man foreseeth the evil that is to come. He remembereth it when it is past. He considereth not that the thought of affliction wounded deeper than the affliction itself. Think not of thy pain, but when it is upon thee, that thou shalt avoid what most hurt thee. So it says, man suffers from the thoughts of affliction and anticipation of those things outside of himself and values. It is these thoughts of manifest outside of the self which hurts man the most and lives his balance in misery. Man, that's something else. It goes on and it says, Ayat 21, he who weepeth before he needeth, weepeth more than he needeth. And why? But that he loveth weeping. The stag weepeth not till the spear is lifted against him. Nor do the tears of the beaver fall until the hound is ready to seize him. Man anticipate death by the apprehension of it, and the fear is greater misery than the event itself. Man, anticipation and apprehension of death. Man is enveloped with fearfulness, anxieties, and trepidation, right? Trepidation. It says, when it comes to thoughts of his death, he spends the larger portion of his life anticipating which of the 1,000 ways will be the actual cause of his death. Often these concerns about his death will outweigh the purpose of what life is truly spent to build. Yet death is no enemy to man. It is a friend, an angel, whom upon answering the call merely separates the non-thinking, non-reasoning flesh from the soul of man, that he may sail on smoother seas. Still the greater portion of his life is needlessly filled with these illusions and fears of death. And it is this fear is greater misery than the event of death itself. That's powerful. It also goes to say in Ayat 23, it says, be always prepared to give an account of thine action, and the best death is that which is least premeditated. Man needs to learn from the stag and the beaver and live the fullness of his life until the angel of death calls otherwise. This way, he and she will live their lives building inwardly towards perfection and not outwardly in misery. So it goes on, and you see the F.O.E.S here. This is the red F.O.E.S degree on the manifest. So we see that one is able to attain the red F.O.E.S degree when they move through these folds properly. It says, the professor, it says how to master the tools instructed in the Holy Quran of the Moorish America, pardon self, in order to conquer the five folds. Come to know and save the self. It says this lesson was originally transcribed in 1977, inspired by the success from an earlier 1975 class taught at Maryland State Penitentiary in Baltimore, Maryland, by visiting the Divine Minister, Dr. Elihu Nathaniel Pleasant Bay, Swift Angel number 1. In honor of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the following Sunday school lesson called The Professor is designed to free characters from mental slavery. In this lesson, rarely written in book form, it must be remembered the science of the Moors is a power that exerts itself at the will of the user. Moors are taught how to use this divine and natural power through their creed and way of life called Islamism. Islamism is the old-time religion, the first religious creed for the redemption of mankind on earth, and known for over 10,000 years as Hotep, the ancient Egyptian holistic mystery system. Islamism is not to be confused with Islam because of similarities deriving from it being selected from this mystery system and perfected for paganistic Arabia by their prophet Muhammad. It is the mother of every major religion known to man and was rekindled by their prophet Muhammad. It is the mother of every major religion known to man and was rekindled, pardon self, as Allah's gift to the world, and through the clean and pure nation of Moorish Americans by the illustrious Prophet Noble Drew Ali. See religious controversy. After the customary opening prayer, the swift angel instructed the student body of 70 prisoners to sit in silent meditation for 7 minutes. Then the teacher began. And it says, in the temple, let us go into the land of fleshless things. It says, where things are made of thought to exercise our strength. Forget the flesh and go with mind to the rock and raise our thought to infinite wisdom and let everything be still. All things that are made will be unmade. Yeah, those that begin with time would also perish when their time is ebb, while all thoughts of Allah are infinite and cannot be comprehended by thoughts of finite degrees. Through purity and love, only divine thought pattern will understand. On this plane, we see time is but finite duration, and now is its essence. Our scene takes place in the Moorish American government's Department of Education and Truth. Each student is required to bring with them their Moorish science temple, the 6th and 7th chakras located inside and above the 5 senses. This is the divine institution where open heart surgeries are performed and instructed by the master surgeon, Professor Noble Drew Ali. As we follow the professor's clear-cut footprints of the divine constitution and bylaws in the Holy Quran of the Moorish, we find the building's foundation is the Moorish American prayer. Its purpose is the cornerstone. All operations are soulful and are therefore guided and protected by Allah alone. The halls are filled with the secrets of Allah, that patients will learn wisdom. In the recovery rooms are blessed with the key of civilization. The interns, divine ministers, sheiks, and goddesses are obedient to the holy instructions of the master surgeon and each applies their will to the use of the tools provided to them. Some of these tools are the compass, the chisel, the square, the line, the axe, the plummet, the hammer, the saw, the plane, the rule, etc. These are the only tools of its kind upon the plane of soul used to build a temple of truth. The truth that Allah and man are one. The consciousness of this according to justice is wisdom, and the will is done on earth as it is in heaven. But let us go further into the great hospital. In the therapy chamber, we find 3 ladders. The first, a 3-step ladder, is faith, hope, and love. The second, a 3-step ladder also, is belief, faith, and fruition. The third, a 12-step ladder, is with the rounds of obedience, modesty, gratitude, charity, temperance, prudence, justice, sincerity, diligence, benevolence, science, and religion. On the latter ladder, the patients must ascend until they reach the pinnacle of that which life is spent to build, the temple of perfected man. The professor was ordained by the great God Allah in due time to bring us a saving power that will be redeemed from our sin-filled ways. Sincerity, diligence, benevolence, science, and religion. On the latter ladder, the patients must ascend until they reach the pinnacle of that which is life is spent to build, the temple of perfected man. The professor was ordained by the great God Allah in due time to bring us a saving power that we will be redeemed from our sin-filled ways. Then it goes into the patients. It says there are many more tools in the workshop where we build up character, but let us go and examine the record and study the case of our incoming patient. Those that enter here are heavy laden, sick, ill with sorrow and disease, with the influences of Negro, black, colored, and Ethiopian, Afro-Americans, chocolate, NBC, and a host of other names and principles that delude to slavery. This is a sin. Sins are wishful and desirous thoughts in the hearts of man before they are manifested in the crimes. All sinful thoughts are errors committed against the ordinance of Allah. All sins are cancerous and act as tumors on the body of consciousness. Yet cancers, like evils, are not requisite to man. They can be removed and prevented. The patients suffer chronic disorders of actions of the soul. They have lost their minds and know not who they are, who their forefathers were, nor how to be themselves. The European nations placed these marks upon the Moors of Northwest Africa about 5 years before slavery was legally constituted in the law, a constitutional law in 1779. These names have become a carnal custom for man in America. It says, through the enactment of the 14th and 15th Amendments, traumas of mental slavery have now been reintroduced judicially. It says, on the previously abolished 13th Amendment slave names of Negroes, blacks, and colored people. Now today, although the truth has been established since 1913, it is the nature of the man-made man to love the dark, while the God in him sleeps and used by another man's natural ways are love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The signs are clear. He is an angel far from heaven. All patients come with varied degrees of shackles and crutches, fettered with the unrest of chattel slavery. There are 5 major human illnesses the professor instructs the interns to look for. Instability, number 1. Inconstancy, F.O.E.S number 2. Weakness, F.O.E.S number 3. Insufficiency of knowledge, F.O.E.S number 4. And the one we are currently demonstrating with now is the 5th F.O.E.S, which is misery. The interns call these symptoms the 5 F.O.E.S. Moorish Holy Quran chapters 40, 41, 42, 43, and 44. It states there are unnumbered foes that will stand before man upon this plane, yet he must overcome them everyone. The patients will come from all the ways of life, from the prison bowels to the heads of courts, from the isms and schisms, and from the churches, bars, lodges, hedges, highways, they will come. But come they will to the building not made by hand. What is most certain is that every man has a soul, and each soul, like private gardens, must be constantly cultivated. Speaking of souls, let us examine the divine architect of man and see how he has been created equal. From chapter that's 38, it says the soul of man. From this chapter, the interns have become adept doctors of the law. The examination. What is the most certain of all truths and most plain to us? That thou hast a soul. How many hearts and souls does man have? One heart and one soul. Is the soul perfect? Yes, even in the bosom of a fool. Was thine soul, pardon self, created with thy flesh and formed with thy brain? Yes, but she was not born before thee. Are all souls alike? Yes, she is alike in all. Now it goes on, it says, now man is a spirit and part of Allah. Both spirit man and Allah are infinite. It says, and are of the everlasting of the past unto the never ending days to come. Spirit man was given a soul that he might function on the plane of soul. Each man is given a soul of his own, which he himself must tarry many ages. A cycle age is about 2,500 years, or 2,500 years. It says, until his lessons are all learned. In this age, the Moorish are to think not with Arabia or the sons of Egypt, that one soul is parted among all, or that every man has many. The interns know the clearest of human knowledge is but blindness and folly. And while the line is drawn thin between divinity and matter, knowledge should not seek to know her personally, or perfectly, pardon self, for she is inscrutable. That man is not the body nor the soul. It is her actions the interns are obligated to attend to. These actions of the soul are the subject for surgery by the adepts and are known as thinking, understanding, reasoning, willing, and remembrance. It said these actions of the soul, but it say these are actions of the soul, but not her essence. All actions are vibrations from a cause, yet not the cause. Control is the master word. Among the Asiatics of North America, the uncontrolled actions of the soul is like that of a wild and rebellious nature of the stallion or a mule. It says, Prophet Noble Drew Ali speaks of the descendants of Adam and Eve, and the beast in his nature is of no benefit to the purpose of man. The stallion is full of fear, and the unknown deems shadows before him from which he flees. Like the stallion, the soul too via its actions must be subdued, tamed, and made to serve the purpose of man. Where there is no understanding, there is no character to being built, no knowledge of the Lord self, nor the sensing of the powers of man himself. The interns note when the patients have no rule of their life and have not measured their life sum once subtracted from the time of their infancy, second infancy of their age, their sleep, thoughtless hours, days of sickness, and the useless part of their lives. The examination shows that they have no true control over the actions of their souls. There is but one question asked in the examination room. How humble should man be? Answer, as he art weak and ignorant. And then it goes into the same questions that we had just asked. You know, again, the room of resolution. We already went through these measures dealing with these questions and answers. And this is just powerful. So we don't have to go back through, you know, the questions and answers again. But again, we just come forth and we have a grand draw and understanding. Now, actually, this would have been what we would pick up at in the workshop. It says the tools, it says, are essential in every profession and craft. The profession of the Moorish is to uplift fallen humanity. And all true citizens of Moorish America must have tools and the knowledgeable use of them to demonstrate their duties with maximum efficiency. All surgery work must be completed in 7 days. 1 day marks the beginning and completion of a master's work. It says, how many days are in a circle? 7 days. How many days are in a creation? 7 days. According to science, how many days are in a year? 7 days. How must a thought be developed? Answer, by exercise of the strength. Does the soul have a boundary? Yes. It was upon this boundary where the essences took on a final guard. It says, what is the end of the soul's search? Truth. What are her means to discover this? Reason and experience. In short, one short breath. What is it that all men need to know? Answer, know thyself in Allah, the great God. Question, how will I know these to be true? Answer, for they are plain before thy face. Case study. It says, the master surgeon presents the clipboard of the patient and contains the historical data, the diagnosis, the prognosis, and remedy for the new citizen. Always be aware of allergies. The master cautioned his interns in your administering your duties, for it is our desire to be a friend to man. Vocabulary, diagnosis, identification and location of the disorder or sickness. Prognosis, the cause and the results of disorder, sickness, prescience, and that the patient will recover. And then it states remedy, the cure, nullification and neutralization of the disorder of sickness. And this is basically the chairman showing the intern or the student, the way that they are to come about and trying to heal our people from the illnesses of these foes. Case study, instability of man. Chapter 40, diagnosis. This patient has multiple symptoms surmised as instability. The symptoms are vanity, despair, intemperance, fear, flattery of unmeaning words, and insincerity of speech. It says, in discontent, lack of firmness, trying to attend to too many things at once. Instability, right? Prognosis. This disorder was inherited from the loins of his father. It was caused by the carnal nature. It can be found in the weakness of the patient, right in the heart. The interns must go in the mind, through the soul, and into the heart, and to perform this operation. The heart is the nearest place for the patient to become acquainted with himself. But first, the blockages of the foes must be conquered. Remedy, the tools to be used in their sequential order. In this case, will be the compass, axe, hammer, plummet, square, and plane. Note, all tools must first be sterilized with love. This is why all Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love. Remember, the hand is symbolic of the mind. Otherwise, the patient could become infected with the secret sins of an earth-like salvation. This would cause a relapse of fiend character. We are teaching our people their nationality and the divine creed that they may learn to love instead of hate. Love is the only true way to study self. In this divine hospital, love is the essence of all antidotes used in each and every patient. This is the only place of spiritual restoration in the West with the chartered authority to tell the truth. Through these lessons, all nations can obtain peace, and all men will be free to worship under their own vine and fig tree. We read the signs of the times and can clearly see the crescent moon and star of Islam rising in the western sky, plummeted to the 5-pointed green pentagram centered in the Moorish flag, being rooted in the hearts of men. Man cannot be bird, beast, fish, reptilian things, plant, nor protoplast, for man is spirit and must feed from the ethers of his native plane. Beware of the zodiac. It said, and its signs, for this word means the world of little animals. Man's sign is the circle 7. Man cannot be perfected while his thoughts are being limited to the levels of the crab, ram, scorpions, lions, etc. Man must learn to live for his own sign by symbol and number, the circle 7. With these lessons made available by the great God Allah through our ancient fathers by his prophet, there is no need for man to feed from the trough of deception, while the table of truth awaits him. Indeed, the only truth that can make you free. This is the conclusion of the case study lesson entitled The Professor, the Operation, Self-Examination, Beloved Gods and Goddesses is forever in your hands. Love Divine, Professor Akanakton Pert M. Heru, Tutankhamun Bay, Grand National Chairman, Swift Angel number 1. And that concludes our measures dealing with the 5 foes of man. You know, this is a powerful drawing. And Brother Jay, yeah, what you think about that right there, brother? And honors to you as well, Ray Sean. Peace and love, brother. Go ahead, Brother Jay.
Very profound, valuable information. For me, I see it as the way for our people to achieve peace. You know, and I believe that it is known by those with power that this is indeed the way for people to achieve true peace, but instead we are fed other things because obviously that is something that they don't want us to have. So, you know, I love it. This is great. It's practical information. It's valuable information. I'm glad that I'm getting this at a very early stage of my life. Some people may not get it at all, you know, so I appreciate it, man. This was good. I'm just wondering where to from here.
Oh yeah, we got plenty more, brother. This is just really the base of it all to let us know, you know, the enemy that we up against. It ain't got nothing to do with somebody outside of the self. It's the foes within oneself. And once we see this, then we know we can't be flanked by situations and circumstances or conditions, you know, that are created as distractions from the outside. Whereas we leave ourselves open, you know, to be attacked by an open enemy, you know, which has to do with the 5 foes of man. You know what I mean? So, yeah, this is only a measure of letting us know, you know, what it means to become an intern or a doctor of the divinity, learning how to use our tools in the workshop of the mind where thought is used to build character. You see? I remember our brother Lil Wayne had that song, Show Me My Opponent. You know what I mean? Yeah, and the opponent has always been a component, you know, within oneself.
Right. You said you drew from the teaching. You said fear is greater misery than the event itself, and that reminded me, you know, the Greeks. I know where they got it from, but the Greeks used to say something similar. They used to say, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality.
That's
so,
right.
You know, I just connected it to that. But I know they used to sit at the feet of the Egyptians and get that information. But I like that. Fear is greater misery than the event itself.
That's right. Yes, sir. And these are some powerful measures, family. As we always bring them on the manifest, want to give honor to all of our family that are sitting there listening, to what it is that we draw it on. Because see, we've been back and forth with many different people, but we have yet to come forth to really be able to teach our people. See, now you get a chance to see what we actually teach, but we had to clean up a lot of the mess that had been made by those who have been carrying and passing themselves off as being defenders of the movement of being Moorish, but had made a big mess that I had to clean up myself over about 10 years it took me to get to this point now to where we can actually sit down and teach on these lessons now. You see? So we had to bring some clarity to our people, on all that other mud that had been tossed, we'll say, on our people, so to speak. We had to bring some clarity and put that clean glass beside that dirty glass, so to speak, as far as consciousness is concerned. So the main key is what we teach is self-mastery. We teach going in the self. We don't teach going into somebody else's garden to cultivate their garden. We have to cultivate our own garden, because if we don't, we'll never be able to get anything done pulling weeds, in somebody else's garden. So that's what the 5 folds are all dedicated to. That's just in every aspect of what it represents. So the 5 folds of man, this is a powerful demonstration, brother. Yes, sir. Anything else you would
Indeed.
like to draw, brother?
Nah, man. I mean, I've been taking notes every time.
I got
Sometimes it might take me a few seconds to answer because I be taking notes. I done filled up a lot of pages over the past week or so. So
Yes, sir.
Some of it sticks, and as you go through life, that information stays with you, and I'm trying to grow with it so I can be better. Like you said, self-mastery.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. And we got the 7 adept degrees also in the channel. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them. So if you ever get a chance, you want to go through them, we have whole measures where we set those things out as well. So, yeah.
All right. I'll check those out too. I'll be going through your channel, man. I'm seeing the growth on the channel. I'm seeing more people watching. That's what's up, man.
Yeah, they picking up, man. If you build it, they will come.
Right.
Yes, sir. And we want more to participate. Like I say, we open up every class now for everybody to come forth and give their portions. So, all praise to the Most High, the great God. And I just want to honor you, brother, for coming forth again. And our brother Soul will probably get this video. We gonna make it go viral like all the rest of them. And we gonna keep up the good work, man. And so at this time, we gonna let ones go ahead and let rest their form, so to speak. And we just give honors to everybody for coming on here, and drawing in this particular realm. And we're going to take this measure out as we do with a track, and this one is definitely fitting for the measure that we just went through dealing with these 5 folds, and on becoming conquerors. So it's only right that I bring one on the manifest that is actually in line with the drawing that we was just demonstrating. So what I'm going to do is go in here and pull this track out real quick. And all is well, man.
Oh, you just got here, man. Come on, brother.
Yeah.
Oh, this was a good one, bro.
Yeah, he'll definitely get a chance to go back in here. Yeah, we get ready to close it out now, so but you can definitely get in there and check it out. At least go back and check it out, and all is well. This was a grand one, the 5th fold. misery,
Mm-hmm.
you know, misery, and we defeated all 5 of them thus far. And so we're gonna let it be known the vibration, that we have after our victory in defeating this foe. So
Commissioner, I'm gonna jump out, man. Appreciate it. I'm still gonna be listening, but I'm
yes,
gonna
sir,
tap
most
out a
definitely.
little early, let you close out the show, brother. Thank you for everything. We appreciate you, and peace and blessings, brother. You deserve all the positivity coming your way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And peace and love, family. Right on point. We love your family. And this recording to be present for all of our family. So y'all just check in, tune in, man. All of you brothers, brother Neil Bay, Ray Sean, Dim Loki, all of y'all family, we give honors to you, for showing up. And we're gonna close this demonstration out and move on to the next measure.
I'm a stepper, I'm a slider, I'm all in. For my people, I'm a rider, I'm all in. I'm done appearing your provider until the end. And I put it on my family ties, I'm destined to win. I'm a stepper, I'm a slider, I'm all in. For my people, I'm a rider, I'm all in. I'm done appearing your provider until the end. And I put it on my family ties, I'm destined to win. Generational wealth, that brings freedom of death. But this is holy breath, so I'm freeing myself. I got knowledge of self and a hell of a breath. Keep a positive vibe, strategic when I step. You went against the grain and you slandered my name. Betrayed our sacred trust and brought us both shame. I'm talking pure pain. How could you envy me? I was my brother's keeper. How could you choose me? I heard your silent hissing and all that sneak dissing. This is God's plan. You plotted but you missed me. So as I unfold, witness my success. I'm a phoenix in flight, fearless in the face of death. So while I'm still here, I'm apply the pressure. I know these devils jealous, and my enemies are zealous. I keep my head on the swivel, even though I'm really careless. December cards for the beat, so don't get me heavy. I'm a stepper, I'm a slider, I'm all in. For my people, I'm a rider, I'm all in. I'm done appearing your provider until the end. And I put it on my family ties, I'm destined to win. I'm a stepper, I'm a slider, I'm all in. For my people, I'm a rider, I'm all in. I'm done appearing your provider until the end. And I put it on my family ties, I'm destined to win. Whatever happened to the love we open enemies? My only vision of unity is vivid memories. I used to feel that the struggle was the bond that made us brothers. Why must we fight on each other? In the end, we all suffer. Crabs in the trap, falling by climbing, reaching for freedom. But our future seeds are dying young as a shortage of leaders. I just buried my comrade, and he used to serve the people. Then I watched the people betray him and justify the evil. Even though the angels are present, demons are in the sky. Then it contemplating on my demise, and this I can't deny. My ministry of death is immortal love divine. The epic will of Allah, and the seventh of the time. Last of a dying breed, but I'm willing to sacrifice. Yeah, these are trying times of affliction, many stripes. Every passion of my life is to be a living legend and lead my people to liberation, cause I was destined.
Yes, sir. Peace and love, family. Yes, sir. We all destined to win when it come to overcoming our foes, becoming that lower self, that manifests often as our adversary. We destined to win, family. We destined to win. Minus doubt of contradiction. So we love you with love and divinity, family. And we're going to keep bringing this heart, this truth to the people until we uplift them. That's the goal. We're going to keep bringing this truth to the manifest, and y'all keep exposing it to the masses. This is where we at. All are welcome here. Everybody is welcome to come up in this house, and demonstrate the truth. We love your family. Peace and love. Till we meet again. Shemo Tepu, Ankwa Jet Saneb, life, health, and prosperity be upon you all. Peace.